Sounds good.
Sure.
Also, I don't know if you guys are watching his stream. I'm still getting it blurry though.
Yeah, can you?
I allowed you to share now, so go ahead
Okay,
and
got
one
it.
second. What I'm gonna do here is close advanced sharing options.
All right,
Hold
yeah,
on.
it should be working.
Advanced sharing.
There
One
we go.
participant
Yep.
can share at a time. If I go one participant can share at a time like that, is his screen clear now?
Yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah,
is. It's good.
clean now.
Okay.
All right, so you guys can see this little snipboard picture.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the agenda. I have labeled out these key moments. So we're basically just gonna look at the daily, drill down by multiple time frames, and then just go to like the 1 or 2 key moments on the tape. And then I'm just gonna speed through really fast, like either 10x or 1 minute per second to the exit. And that way we can actually run through a lot of these, what I think are easy monies. So first one, let's go, we're gonna do Tesla, and I'll also start with market for each day. So I'm just gonna go chronologically.
Okay.
If anyone has a better idea, let me know. Okay, so coming into Monday, here is what Tesla looked like at the close of Friday. So this is just a daily chart. So I got my 5 moving average, 9 and 20, and then Bollinger Bands off the 20. And so uptrends, downtrend, and what does stand out to me is just like this previous day low. That's pretty basic. And so let's go now to hourly, which looks really tough to read. Oh, it's probably because market hours. Okay. All right, whatever. So then I'm just gonna go to let's see. Yeah, so you can see previous day low right here. I'll mark that out. Like 250.70, it looks like. And so we're gonna play from the open, and this is gonna be 2 minutes. So let me go. Got a 1 minute. So since this is the open, I'm just gonna do a 1 minute and like literally a 15-second. It should be on 1x.
Anthony, also play through when you were seeing this as the opportunity to buy and whatnot, if you could.
Sure. So what I'm seeing now is like open, right off the open, there's a spike, comes down, now it's coming in retesting. And so open price is where I'm hovered at this like 250, 250. And so to me, that's kind of a key area I'd be looking at. Okay, so now it's into a new high. And so we're just watching price action. How does it react on this push?
Would you see through the opening print?
Now that's a down through
through
open. Yeah, so now this is a back through open. I think it's probably lower prob, but this is the first spot I'd be interested in, is like just hitting back through open against the high.
Okay.
And I'm going to go to a 2 minute. Let's go 2 minute on here. So you can see. So one trade I do have is, we know the previous day low, we marked that out 250.70. And I do have a like just basically hitting through the first 2 minute low as like a lower low against the high.
Okay.
And then the next spot I'd be interested in at this point today is just like that 250 level. So it's getting close to the end of the first 2 minute bar, and there's like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So I just hit a low through it. Yeah, so it didn't exactly set up, so I wouldn't have hit it yet. And then now I'm just like looking at 250. And so I'd want to see 250 break. While hyper focusing on the bid and ask, I see 250.10, see 20s holding, and now it's broken. Ideally would be entering with a sell stop. So I probably wouldn't get filled right at the low tick. I'd probably get filled, 20 cents of slippage, 30 cents of slippage. And then at this point, I'd just be risking against the 2 minute bar high.
Okay.
So I'd be trailing this on, if it reclaims 251, it's like not super good for this trade. And so that is the key spot I wanted to see. Was
Now,
pretty much
real
just,
quick question for you on this. What
yeah.
percentage of time would you see it retest that previous day's low?
I don't know, but I think I would expect 250, like somewhere around 250 to come and retest.
Okay. But you would have expected something like that. If it was going to hold, would you expect more of a fight there?
I would expect it to reclaim pretty quickly. Like the more
Okay.
time it spends below, the more I'm thinking it's just not going to work. Just this. Like right now, it's just kind of like staying heavy. Like I see 248.50. I saw that kind of, and then now this next level is like 248. So like this isn't really price action. I'm like, oh, this is probably going to go back up. This is like just staying kind of heavy. And I don't want us to get drowned on this kind of grindy action, but that sequence there of like, can it bounce? Can it get back up to 250? And then just like kind of staying heavier. So I'm going to speed through this at like a 5x so it doesn't take too long. What's my next? It happened really quick. Like I hadn't noted that there's a 250 retest, but I'm gonna have to rewatch and see. I guess you can kind of see in this 15-second where like probably initially just printed back up there, but it wasn't like it didn't spend very long on that retest. So, you know, which is also kind of why like when these break and they stay below, like it's just like it's working better versus like if it breaks and retests, the quality is like already slightly decreased.
Okay.
And then now, just looking at like 2 minute. So we got the 2 minute up here. I would now be considering like stopping back through that high. But even then I might just, if I'm in from like 250, I might just literally just have like a break even on that. Like if it comes back through 250 at this point, I probably want to get flat and like reassess. This is me though.
One thing about this trade was because I actually took this trade, you know, it was really, really weak on that day. Tesla was really
Yeah.
not trying to bounce at all. So I literally scalped this trade, but I think I really made a big mistake because I could see there's no literally there's no bids stepping up. So I could have just given it, 250 stop or maybe 250.50 because my entry was right above 250. So I was
Yeah.
risking like literally 50 cents and I could have easily maybe tripled or maybe quadrupled my profits on this trade.
Right. Yeah. And just looking at this daily chart, like it's now broken the low. It isn't a downtrend. And
Yeah, and also
believe overall
day
market
prior
was
was
also
green
weak.
day too. Yeah.
And the ATR in this thing is huge. So, I mean, this says it was 38 this day. I don't know if that's right. I
Yeah,
know
it's
recently
probably
it's like
gonna go down
20.
to 220 today. That is the day we went to 220.
So here's like a bit of a, retest in action. This is on,
Yeah.
it's on 5x, but it's like, okay, how is it responding up here? Like, is it going to hold? Is it starting to hold? Is it not?
Yeah,
And
this is what I really wanted to see right here.
This is where I would look to add more probably.
like, if this thing gets to 250, punches through, and then immediately gets back through, to me, that's like a VWAP
Can you
retest failed breakout, and I would just rehit it back through 250.
can you go back on the 1 minute on the top one instead of the daily just so we can see
Yeah, sure.
just the 1 minute bar? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, it makes a lot more. Yeah, so that bounce, even though it's coming up, that bounce doesn't on price action, the wicks on top, it doesn't look super strong. It's not like they're massive bars printing.
Right. And then, and then now this was that bounce attempt that just, if you're trying to find a way, and I guess maybe back through like on that bounce, I would have wanted to see test 250, but a way in, would be probably hitting a lower low through like 248 against the high. Personally, I would have wanted to see 250. I think it sets up later on as well, like on like an opening range breakdown. Yeah, and then now that's technically like the 945 opening range breakdown is there.
Okay.
I can keep this playing, or I can fast forward to the next spot. For me, this is a pretty good read on just like kind of how weak has been.
Yeah,
Just
go for it.
okay, all right. So I'm gonna go to 1 minute per second and just speed through. So there's not gonna be tape, but you'll be able to see what it looks like in 1 minute. At this point, it's like 9:55, so I would be watching like a 1 minute, 2 minute, and a 5 minute personally. It's a large cap, so I'm just gonna put it on the 5 minute so you can see how it's developing. And we're gonna just play through until 12:02. So you can just kind of see. Um, so now there's this 240 level is the next kind of big spot I see developing. Okay, it gets below that, retests. Okay, now it gets back above it. Okay, now it's back below. So it's just kind of like a little bit choppy within this type of range, but at this point it's like it's off the highs quite a bit, and it's just kind of like just that trendy, grindy down price action. If anyone sees anything you want me to highlight or slow down on, let me know. Okay, so at this point I start seeing this like next low, this like 237.50 is probably where I would be having an alert set to at this point.
Yeah, actually, I was on mute. I was talking about this trade actually. The
And
37 break. Yeah.
so for opening range breakdowns, I look at like the 945, the 10, and the 1030. So this is technically would be a 1030 opening range breakdown. The longer it spends in the lower like half to lower quartile on that, the better I think it is. Like if it starts to get above UOP and starts to chop around there, I'm like probably not as interested. But if it starts to kind of like hover and get weak on it, I become more interested.
That volume spike on the 1 minute, would that get your attention to maybe is going to temporarily find a stop here? You see that
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there?
yeah, a little bit because this is really pauses should be coming up.
I was
Um,
just curious.
yeah, so I mean, it's kind of back into these wicks right here, right? So there's this
Mhm.
low and there's these wicks, and it kind of just failed back into that area with a little bit of the volume spike. And
Okay.
then looking at, at this 1 minute, it's like it's going higher, 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 and then this is like, okay, maybe it's kind of stalled out, and then this like lower low back through 242. If you're like zoomed in, I mean, it's a spot you can risk a point to maybe catch, um, a move, and maybe it starts to drift back down towards lows, and you can like add there. But for me, this would probably be like, I'd probably say it's like lower probs. I'd probably say like C plus, maybe like B minus at most, risk wise. But yeah, that's a good like support and resistance failure on that. Um, and this next spot's coming up right here. So I'm just going to, okay, it's just jumped ahead 4 minutes. And so now following, yeah, and good point on that, actually. So now this would be opening range breakdown and like a 1030 opening range breakdown. And the way I do this is I hit the new low and I just risk into the 5 minute bar high. So I'd be looking, and 237.50 is the level, and the stop would be 239.45, or if I'm really tight, 239 straight up. So it's like a 1.5 risk right there. So that's where I'd be. And I like getting these on sell stops because you just get a little bit better pricing. But for the purpose of this, I manually did it. But yeah, so now we plug the stop in, and I'm just going to fast forward through time. So this is a good opening range breakdown. This is a good thing, you know, if you're seeing something that broke the previous day's lows, you're seeing something that's in play that has something in play that has a level like this and it's like stayed below. These are good spots to have alerts for if it start breaking. They're also good potential call outs for like continuation. What I like about this one is it's consolidated in the lower quartile. Maybe this is like the lower 30%, but it stayed weak on there. So I think these are fairly easy money because it's like you literally just trail down on the 5 minute with it. I also think if you have like a bigger picture thesis, I think the 15 is also like a valid trail, which I'll put on here. Then,
One key thing was that the 237 level was a daily level because we had a big gap underneath. So if we break that, probably we're gonna have some big flush after that.
right. And this is saying it's got a $40 ATR. So open at 250, $40 lower is 210. So at this point, it's like halfway to it. All right, I'm playing on 10x and I'll just trail this a little bit. Anyone have any questions on kind of on this? So the way I've been seeing this is like if it's a large cap trailing on a 5 minute, and if it's a small cap or low float trailing on a 2 minute. I do kind of like that method. I think the other way is like maybe taking a partial on a 5 minute and a partial on a 15 if you have like a bigger picture idea. But I think that's a valid way to do these. So like on a 5, you would be stopping back through that. So you would have hit and it would have been a break even.
If you're using the 15, you're going to be in this trade for a long time.
Yeah, so I just changed it to 5 minutes per second.
Or no, I mean in terms of like taking profits, you'd be in this trade all the way down to like 225.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I'm, on these are normally in a 5 minute. If you're kind of skilled into it and like right now hitting the open and then also hitting that, I mean, I like 5x the position size and the stop is still basically like in the money.
Yeah.
And this is more Andrew style. Like Andrew, you stick in things a lot better than I do. This is 5 minutes per second. So
I mean, this is one of those charts too, where if you catch it, I think the big analyzation is like, is this, like one of the big questions I try asking myself it before the market opens, like, is this hit and run or is this potential to hold, right?
Yep.
And I think at this point you realize in this chart, there's a good chance Tesla's closing on its low this day.
Yeah. And okay, now we're trailing down and we're like worst case. What are we? We're here now. Okay. And now I think we should be stopped. We should have been together. Okay, so we got stopped out through this. All right, so now that's the end of the day. That's a good way just to run it a lot quicker. But yeah, I think that's a good point. You're thinking if it's breaking and staying heavy, like yeah, it's probably closing the lower end. And so we'd just be trailing. I'd just be trailing it down. And that point, it's like, okay, you start off willing to get back a break even, but if you end up catching it, you just end up catching a huge leg. I think even just like taking profits on like tape base something like at least trailing, a portion of it, I think makes sense.
Yeah, even if it's not a very, big portion, let's say. I mean, I've noticed like these little 10% positions, sometimes I'll hold. Like we had one in NVIDIA last week that Keith and I got into. I think Guri was trading a bit lower, but like I got in it. And then once you kind of get in it, thing goes in your favor real good. You put your stop at break even. and Nvidia was really heavy. You come back and the amount of money you've made on that position just by forgetting about it is, substantial.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, this is like 240 average and you end up catching, 18 points on something that you were able to like pyramid into. That's like
Yeah, and I
huge.
think you said like
That would make my
initial
quarter.
Yeah, your initial risk I think was what? Like I think you had less than $1 risk on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great trade.
So I thought this one was good to highlight. The other one should be a little quicker to run through. Just this one ends up trailing like literally all day. Next one we're gonna look at. So this is now the next day.
I'll comment one thing on that. And the way you can know, like back looking at it, that wasn't hindsight, is I remember this day we were talking about Tesla and we were talking about it. It was like, it was very noticeable that it was super heavy because we were making the comment about it at the time, like, man, this thing is heavy. Like this thing could really sell down today and tomorrow. This thing could offer a really good long opportunity.
Yeah, I think we were looking at it maybe getting under the 200 mark at that point.
Yeah, I think we had 220 and then
Yeah, the options levels were 200, 220, and then below that, nothing. So
yeah.
That's also good context then. So using options levels, you had an idea of kind of where it could go. Yeah, that's good.
Do you guys at the firm, or do you guys like when you were firm trading, would you guys look at levels like options activity?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think it's a good barometer to get an idea of where things can go. Where the move is expected to be priced into. So I think that's good. And then also I would add that this just barely tags the SSR trigger as well on that day. So that's also kind of that's also something too, is when things go ahead and tag those levels. I think that's important.
So I posted in the Dash to the Moon section the option stuff for this week for the market. I think it's SPX and Tesla and Nvidia.
Sweet.
Where the
Anthony,
options level are.
would you be
Okay.
able to click F11? Let's see if it zooms up a little bit. Just a little bit hard to read everything. F11.
F11.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Okay. Yeah, and would you be able to put 1 minute like on the bottom one and 15-minute on the top? Oh, because the one on the bottom is a
Sure.
little bit bigger.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so now we're coming into next day, and I just have this basically set up to right where it's going to be. I guess I don't want this one to run as long. This next day, now SSR is going to be on, or short sell restriction. It had this big day with a lot of volume that closed below the Bollingers, right? And I was really hoping for a gap down. I think a gap down would have made this significantly better. But off the open, I think what this did well was it was like a first move down. And as a first move down, at this point, what is the ATR? My thing still says 38. I don't know how this is getting that, but ATR is at least, like 25. It's like pretty high. So this to have a $3 move off the open where, we're going to look at pre-market really quick. I think in the overnight session, it came and it did go
I think it did 210.
Okay, so overnight it gets like 210, 215, and then I was kind of gapping up from that. That's not what I want to see. I want to see this 210 drifting lower, 205, and I'm thinking like a down through open. Like if this price action happened at 200 on a gap down where opens 205, touches 200, maybe gets under by like a penny, or maybe it holds to the penny, and then it's setting up. To me, that would have made this, like a risk.
If you
I'd
you
say
guys
A.
want the actual trading of this trade, Ravi has actually traded this and he has a recording of it if you guys want it.
Sure, yeah, let's have him post that in.
Or if you guys want to review it, he can just share the screen because he has actually Dash Trader tape and everything included there.
Let me just run through
Yeah,
this because I got like
Dacian.
3 examples from the day. This is the way I can just
Sure.
run through it pretty quick.
Sure.
So 936 right now we're coming into, you know, you now have a 5-minute bar that's formed and it looks like this. And for what I was doing, I was buying back through the open at 225.30 and I was risking against 225. So I was literally risking 30 cents and I just kept trying it on C plus risk. I think I caught it in the fourth one. So I drew down like 8% of the amount I'm willing to like lose on the day before catching it. But I think the higher probability and where I think I could have been like, okay, this is like a B plus risk trade is literally just buying through 226, this like 5-minute bar high. I think that's higher probability. And if I did that, I'd be risking 2-minute bar low. So like right now, that would be, you know, we're seeing like 225, which is a little bit under open. And so I think that's pretty solid. Okay, so I got a 1 minute and then I got this 2 minute. I'm gonna hit play and then I'm just gonna fast forward through. So this one should be a lot quicker. So right now we're thinking, you know, breakout through 226 against 225. It's $1 risk. Okay, it's now happened. And I would have done this on a buy stop. So I would have been just right through 226 itself. So to me, this is what it looks like when it's working. It's broken that level. It's pushed through. It's not coming back and retesting it. It's not like it's 226 breakout, 226 second chance scalp. You know, like that's not what this looks like when it really works, especially when it's got SSR on. It's got short sell restricted on. So like shorts can't hit the bid, only sellers. So if it gets above 226 and people that own equity are willing to short it or sell it back through 226, like that would be a signal telling me like this is really not working.
Would you go
So-
break even on that at this point?
At this point, I'd probably still just give it straight to 225, but you absolutely could. Like if you got like a 226 10 entry or something, and now it's gone up a few points through, I think it's perfectly valid just to put a stop break even on it.
Okay.
Like because, you know, again, especially with the SSR dynamic on it, like I wouldn't want to see people that own equity sell it all the way back through to that break point. Okay, so now 230, that's like a psych level, right? So how's it acting at 230? You know, I see a little bit into it. So if I maybe caught that from 226, like, and I have, you know, in this case, 300, maybe I would take a third off into this. Okay, 230. Now if 230 breaks, so if an ask can hold below 230, like to me, that can be like a momentum reason to exit on a piece versus having like price targets. Because like right there. So I would maybe hit some of that out through there, even though it instantly just reclaimed, you know, so it proves to be not the, you know, didn't work exactly, but like that is how I'd be thinking through this is like, if I got someone on a momentum trade and I went extra big on it, I'm probably have a tape based reason to exit of like, okay, if this gets above this key level and it then breaks back through it, like that can be my cue to get out. And that way I'm still opening the possibility that it just like starts skipping, you know, and maybe start skipping dollars and going up. And that way I kind of open up that, but that way if it kind of fails and holds underneath like this, you know, I didn't like top tick, I didn't time it perfect, but I got a decent like momentum exit. And then I can just be more patient on this. And now at this point, yeah, I'm probably risking straight up break even at like 226 on it. That was kind of the key moment of this. So now I'm going to fast forward through. So it's now kind of made the opening move. And now this is kind of that like, it's now made a 1 minute lower low through here. I'll point out as well. I think the tape base exit on over under 230 is probably like, that is exactly how I'd be treating this. And then there's another key spot. Time 47. Okay. Oh, I F11. No, I can't. Okay. Well, F11 back in a second.
What's F11 do?
Full screen.
Oh.
Okay, so now at this point, a few minutes have gone by. I've taken my momentum portion off. I'm down to, you know, a third. I'm down to half. I'm down to something. Now there's this consolidation on this level. It's kind of held up is what I would identify in this, like this low here. And now I'd probably just be willing to buy back through like 231.70 and risk versus that 2 minute bar, either open or low. And so if I buy back through 231.70, looks like I'm probably risking 230. So it's like $1.70 risk. So that, to me, this would be a hitchhiker scalp, opening drive, something that consolidates in the upper range, and then just buying that breakthrough. This is before, before 10. I think that's valid. So 231.70 is where I will be hitting this key. On a buy stop to 231.70, I think I probably get filled by 232 for sure. Like, I would be extremely surprised if I did not, at least get that. So that would be the next spot. Sometimes when these things do this, I'll then be like, okay, I'll add more through 232.01 if like that kind of stopped there. So at this point, I added and my stop is 230. Technically, I guess it's 229.50, but I would probably just be 230. Which, adding to the final 1/3, it's basically like a small scratch if that hits. And then now I'm thinking it's probably working. It's got volume through that level, volume increase through that level. And yeah, so I that's what I wanted to see. And then I'd ideally want to see just keep stair stepping up. I don't want to see it come and retest this. Like, I want to see it continue. So if it comes and retests, that's probably like, it's probably not working as well as when it looks like this, where it just kind of keeps pushing. And then as far as like reasons to exit, I think on a 2-minute, just trailing on a 2-minute with this, I think makes sense.
Question for you, since I'm done with these breakouts. Okay, on a trade like this, what percentage of the time would you say they retest versus times that you would say they look clean, like they work clean? Is it pretty typical that they retest, or a lot of the times?
If they retest, I think it's more likely than not that it's going to fail.
Okay.
Like, so as far as breaking that by percentage, I'm not exactly sure. Let me see what comes to my mind with my subconscious is I would say maybe like, of the ones that fail, 100% of them come back and retest, right?
Yeah.
And of the ones that work, the ones that retest, maybe like 30% comes to mind, maybe 30, 40%.
Okay, so a lot of
And then it's a
times I'm
matter of
just-
how the retest looks. If the retest is on really light volume and on tape, I see bid stepping back in into that level, like, okay, that's the
Okay.
subset where they're working. The
Okay.
ones where
And
offers
I
are
think-
just stepping lower into it, that's where it's not working. Okay, now it's kind of been pushing up the 2-minute bar trail. Yeah, it's coming up in a second. So in a moment, we're now just risking against 232. So it's now, in the money stop, a break even stop. So within 2 minutes, this has gone from we're risking, a little bit to we're risking a break even on the trade. And I think that's what makes this kind of nice, is you can quickly be risking where it's like, it's not really going to hurt you anymore from this point. This 1-minute bar, this closes above and stays here on a 1-minute, I'd probably be trailing against this 235. Even though it's not on a 2-minute, just kind of based off the candle formation of like 1 push, 2 push, 3 push, and then it's like even number level.
Once that
Any,
1 minute closes, you'd raise the stop up to there. You'd wait
Yeah.
for that to close and, okay.
yeah. I mean, even right now, I probably take off half if it gets back through 235. Or a quarter, like something, just because momentum is a shift if it gets back through that. So I'm looking at the bid. Okay, just got through. So on a momentum basis, I think that's the tape spot where it's kind of slowed out. Yeah, and so through a 1-minute, yeah, you'd now be taking some off back through this. And this is like, because this is a momentum opening drive trade. Some people, they're exiting into the wave and the up strength. Me, I prefer just to like be sensitive on the trail exit. And so now I'm back to the core, that I had earlier. Probably don't need to be watching a whole lot more of this from here. I think at some point news is coming out. Like Trump kind of came out with some news, and I think it kind of ruins this this whole thing. So on the 2-minute, I think at this point you could just risk straight up break even on your last like quarter or whatever, but the momentum, it's in your favor here, it's in your favor here, it's in your favor here. It was in your favor, and then it comes back through this 235, and by this candle breaking this new like 1 minute low, I think the momentum starts to be against you. I think it can definitely hold and support and continue up higher. But I think if you're looking at like, if you went extra big on this and you're just trailing with the momentum, I think the exit's through 235.
I'm kinda, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna curious if like this is momentum plays, but is there an instance where you maybe decide this is gonna trend all day, where you find a retest of a pullback area or a breakout area and it holds, that you might shift towards like an all day trend and add in there? Or would you just say, no, this is momentum only and just stick to the rules?
I would basically hit the key spots with momentum and bigger, and then just take off, like 50 or 75% of that, and then be like, okay, I got my trail for this bigger picture idea. Because at this point, I still thinking 250 is possible. So I kind of use like the scalp momentum surgical knife to get in, and then take off the bulk of it with the momentum or with the scalp exits, and then that way it's kind of financed that trail piece. And yeah, so I think if it comes back and it retests and the tape looks like a good retest, there is that second chance scalp like playbook type where they're looking for a retest on a 1 minute and then buying back through the 1 minute high. But also if you have a little bit of tape skills, I think you can put the pieces together better with that. But yeah, that would be another way to add in. And now the other way I could add back in is if this stays in this upper quadrant and then it breaks this high, now I can add in on a 945 opening range breakout.
Yeah.
I don't think the rest of this is super key. I think I had one more note, 1022, which is coming up later on. I'll 10x through this. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, so here's this like retest. It's like kind of coming back in. This is more than a retest I would want to be like to take another like hitchhiker through this, but to kind of consolidate an upper, it would opening range break would be on the table. On the retest we're talking about, this is pretty much, so to slow down to 1. This is now retesting that zone. So the way I believe the second chance would be like, okay, it's now retested this and just buying through 1 minute high. So that idea would be invalid here, here, here. So technically you'd be buying back through 232 and then you'd just be 2 cents below this low here. And I think it's 2 cents below because their stop is 1 cent below, but that's probably a topic for another day.
We get Trump news in like a minute.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, the second chance scalp, you would have bought through 232. And what did it do? It immediately just kind of pulls back in. Stop is pretty tight. So I mean, it's a good risk reward opportunity there. And then now as well. So, okay, so maybe I add there on the second chance scalp. I just saw 232 hold the bid. Should show up in a moment. Yeah, so I would have gone, 08. And that's just me saying, okay, is this acting like support? And I think the Trump news is probably kicking in somewhere in here too. So, but at this point, I got to stop for everything below this low. 231. Trump news hits this minute, right? Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around like in between here.
Should be.
Yeah, 10
I think it's
a.m.
1 more minute. 1 more
Yeah,
minute, I
10
think it
a.m.
is.
is right where the Trump news sits.
I think there wasn't a Trump news. There was Jolt job opening numbers at 10 o'clock.
And then he spoke right after that within like a minute.
Yeah.
Within a minute, he said, yeah, because the jolts would have supported the market to go up.
Yep.
So you're going to see a push up, and then Trump, the exact same minutes, like tariffs 50% instead of 25%. And then that's when he said, like, starting tomorrow instead of.
So even though I know what
when they
happens
sell the
here,
kill already.
my stop is 231. So I hit the hotkey to stop out below 231. Even knowing what's happening, I still want to just get the rep in of like, my stop is here, that there's where it's at. So, yep. Yeah. So he comes in. So there's the jobs, the news. I don't think there's anything super great on, do you guys want me to play through this wick here? Is there any interest in that?
No, you're good. Robbie, what were you saying?
All right, and we're going to the next spot.
Oh yeah, I remember. At this point, you said he killed the rally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Poor
so we
guy.
now fast forwarded to 1022. So yeah, there's the push, the lower high. If this broke this high here, I don't like it as opening range breakout just because of this pullback, and then also it's just like leg down, leg up. I like it more if it kind of consolidates, but I mean it's still valid. It just means the risk on it is wider. But for fast forwarding to where we're at now, it's here's VWAP and here's like lower low. So I would be looking at this lower low and I would be calling this a fashionably late like trade, even though it hasn't closed yet. I'd just be looking at this breakdown and risking it's a 2-minute bar low. So I thought this was also, when I was reviewing everything, that this is worth looking at as a spot. So like 228 is this level where it's like, it's kind of bounced off that and it's holding this 9 EMA. And so if it gets back, if it gets below that, you know, my risk is pretty tight on it. And, you know, chances it comes back to lows is probably okay. Oh, F11. And if we're long in this MOT, this is also a good trail point. It's like, if you're long and it's doing this, you know, just kind of failed to reclaim VWAP and now it's back on this. I think that's a valid like reason to exit on a consolidation breakdown lower low of a VWAP, or at least a spot to kind of consider. Okay, so 228 broke, offers hold below 228. That's bearish. And then now my eyes are just looking there and I see just some like noise in between these levels, but I think the key spot was the immediate retest and offer stepping below. And then if I'm taking this, I like seeing that this is below 227 now, this lower low. Expectation of taking that is that it's going to quickly break this low. And next expectation is that this 9 EMA is going to close below VWAP. What it would take for this to not close above is like a complete reversal. So I think that's kind of a way to kind of cheat that like kind of taking like a domino, like, okay, if this breaks this and it's working, it should then trigger. And that way I got an entry much tighter. And at this point I'm against this 2-minute higher high, like 229. So, you know, it was like a dollar risk. And let's be trailing down with that. I'm going to fast forward through so it doesn't take forever. So if there's any questions during that, feel free to ask. So we got a 2-minute chart. We just made a lower low through that. And then I'm just trailing on that 2-minute. And this is the last one I had from the day on this.
Hey, you guys. Sorry, I gotta go. The police are at my house. My dogs got into a fight on the walk yesterday, and I think they killed the dog. So I'll be back in like 30 minutes or an hour. Sorry.
No worries. That sounds like a headache. Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there's your 2-minute low flat. Wow. On 10X, I saw this. Okay. So this 222.50, I kind of just saw that it was like holding and then reversing a little bit back through. And so on a momentum reason exit, I think that's a spot. And then the trail on the 2-minute bar, that's also there. Other variable I liked for exiting on that kind of thing is this extension from the 5 EMA or 5 SMA. When you kind of get that, and then you also see tape holding in like a range, I think that's a good like reason to exit or spot to, you know, consider. That's what I got in this one. Before I move on to a different day, and this other one should also be pretty quick. Is there any questions on this day before we kind of move on? I don't want us to drag too much. I'll just close. So now we're just going to like what this looked like by the end of the day in like a 1 minute. So I guess the other spot I could have looked at was the 220 breakdown. Because I think that's set up for a scalp. I think Ravi, I think he hit this on this 9 EMA like reclaim and then caught another leg on this, I believe. Wanna see in here?
Yeah, me, Ravi, and Keith, we were all trading this, leg
Yeah.
for the low of the day break.
Is there any spot you guys want me to highlight on this to like look back through, or he said he has
Yeah,
tape of it? You can probably share.
this 220 break where actually it capitulated and reversed. Probably.
Okay, 1049. Yeah, so I saw this 220 break. I think it was if it wasn't on SSR, I think I would have tried to hit it. But I didn't want to expect too much like slippage with it, so I just did not. Okay, so it should be happening in this minute here. Just playing 220.
Yeah, actually, I missed the first entry close to the opening print, so I was looking for a pullback at least to the opening print. So when it went there, I placed my limit orders, and then it immediately flushed down and broke the low of the day. Actually, I wanted to play it off from the VWAP. I got stopped out of the penny around 10:18, 10:15 to 10:18. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So like, yeah. Sorry guys, I'm really sick. My voice is going over.
No worries. So this is that 220. So instantly it's down $1 on that break. And if I did take this 220, I'm probably literally just risking against 220.01. Like, cause it's a scalp trade. Should just be this minute, right? Should see a reverse pretty quick, I believe.
I remembered it faster than that.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
Okay, it comes back as retesting 218.50s, holds in front. Okay, 218.50 by 219. Bids holding over 219.
Yeah, when I pull back to
Bids is held 219.
Yeah.
They're stepping in higher. Okay, I just saw bid step 75. Okay, now they're holding back over 220. That's like with SSR on, it's like now you have to have bulls sell back below through 220. And I think a thesis on this you could have is like, okay, the ones that won to sell probably market ordered sold below it in the first time. At this point, I don't know why you would sell, have a sell stop below two. I mean, I guess maybe you'd have one below, straight up below 220 saying like, okay, if bids can't hold over this, it's not worth it. But I think that was probably a reversal spot. Was just using that SSR dynamic. I think that's about it on this one. Anything else you guys want me to highlight on this? Are we good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Okay,
good
next
job.
day I have a really quick one. And this is literally just the wow, did I space on what was the name? What was the headline on was this jobs? There's some economic release at 8:30.
Oh,
What day was that?
The
CPI.
12th, 3/12.
Is that CPI?
Okay, yeah, I think it's CPI. Okay.
Been Wednesday. Yeah, that's
Yep.
CPI.
Okay, so this is CPI. I was looking over. I thought this was kind of interesting. Basically, just for me, I would be, into this. I think the way you do this is into the release. You probably just have a key level that you want to get through, and I just got this straight up at 8:30. So this is a really shitty 1 minute because of all the prints. But the spot I would be looking at is literally just 240, and I'd probably be risking a point on it. Yeah, 239. So I'd be willing to buy through 240 against 239. I would do it on a stop limit buy. And I don't think I'd be willing to pay more than like 50-cent slippage. But I'll play through this really quick. So here it is. Instantly just, wow, I need to go back 10 seconds. But this is something I saw. This might be a little more scalp based than some of you guys are looking at, but okay, we'll go half speed here. Since it's just 30 seconds. So yeah, there's kind of a spread here. This is probably not something for most of you guys. This is something I would do, but it's probably not for most people in here.
So how would you execute this in pre-market? Would you just put your stop orders? Are you
I
able
would
to
have a
actually
stop limit buy for
stop limit, right? 'Cause
stop
there's
limit
no
buy.
stop.
So I would have a 240.01 buy stop with a 240.51 order. And it would be set to external hours. And then as I'm waiting for this, I would have a sell stop for 238.99. Yeah, so there it is. Okay, and then you could see 240 held for literally just a quick second on that. But this is the action on that release. Granted, this is on half speed, so I think the only way you get it is on a buy stop. And and then the way I do it is I just have a sell stop automatically loaded, ready to send. So that way, if I get filled right away, my stop is in right away for it. This isn't something you do on a whole lot of size, but it is something where, now you're already up at 3-1, and then you're just kind of, in it with the momentum working in your favor. And I'll play, now I'm playing this at 5x. Okay, so now it's above 244. And now I'd probably just be trailing. Yeah, I probably would have been out somewhere in this, just underneath 244 on that little push. That one's really quick. I think the other way is probably just straight up on, I was gonna look on TQQ, but I guess we could also do on just straight up Qs. Since this is a really it's 15 seconds. All right. So doing this on like Qs, the other way is probably just, okay, so we're just looking at this right before the level it needs to get above. I see 60, I see 70, I see 77. It's not as clean of setup here, maybe through 277. And I'll just play this on a 1x, doesn't need to take too long. Just watching this right before. Yeah, the level is probably just 477 straight up. Just since the spread, like I don't think I'd want to be wixing right before. And if I did, I'd be against 476.30. So instantly you're just in at 477, that break of that. And then now it's, it's 3 points in your favor. And you're instantly just against that low. And then management wise, I think you're still just keeping it and just letting this at least work for like a minute. If anything, you're probably for sure have raised it to break even, or maybe you've taken off like 50 or 30% or something just into this initial spray up in case there's a quick reversal. But tape wise, 480.50, 481 holds below 50 cents. I'm probably out. And again, this tape is not as high quality as what it's going to look like in real time on your own stuff. But almost out. Okay, and so somewhere in there, I would have hit out. Just really quick tape based scalp with that release. Anything else? I don't have anything else from this day. So skipping over next day, 13th. What do we got here? Okay, yeah, this one's pretty quick. I didn't see much for this day in terms of for me for like easier money stuff, but what I did see is PLTR had a nice opening drive down for like a reversal type trade. I'm going to play this at, okay, I'll play the first like 30 seconds at 1x and then I'll just speed through. We go, okay, let's go to actually daily first. Okay, daily on PLTR is this, so it's kind of in this like, it's been, it had a massive run up. It had a pretty good little pullback. It's above this like 80 area. Previous day low is at 80. Previous day high is like 84.50s. Okay. And then off the open, so opening print 82.85, and now it's like 82.30 by 83. The key spot is for me not really just right off the open. I just wanted to see really briefly off. Okay, so it flashed above open and kind of goes back below. And then now it's making a move above and stuff pre-market highs. Yep. So off the open, this is it's an attempt to go up. We're at 10x. This is should be pretty quick. That break there, that like new lows, like it tried to look like it's going to go up, and then it's broke new lows and now is retesting that previous zone. This is like a little bit choppy in how this is developing, but I think in terms of like second chance scalp, probably through this, like 82.20 against this candle is I think I believe that's a second chance. And that, again, this is on 10x, so it's pretty quick. So I'm now just going to fast forward through to the key spot. Key spot I had was 10:02. So I think the context of how that looked off the open where it's on the daily is kind of important for what ends up happening here. So what ends up happening here, so it's got first move up and then down and consolidation, another break. I guess this break right here this is a nice opening range breakdown actually on this spot, 51. Because the context of first move up, then down, stays below VWAP consolidation, and then after 945, just looking at these levels. And so, yeah, this level would have been 81.30 and would have been against this like 82. But like if you kind of miss that and it's like kind of capitulating down, or capitulatory down, just consecutive days down, just like volume exhaust. I don't think I wouldn't call this a capitulation, but I would call this like a rubber band scalp when you kind of get this these moves like this. Oops, I fast forwarded the wrong spot. Okay, I want to see what this 10 o'clock looked like. Okay, so here's this here's what this low ends up looking like as it gets put in. So it's making new low spot is right through there. We're just gonna watch 1 minute. So I would want to see the volume increase for me to be thinking this is like intraday exhaustion. All right, so now this is now the highest volume candle of the day.
GB all out if you're in here. Like that to me looks
Short.
like it's very,
Yeah.
very close to being done.
Yeah. If I was short, I think I'd be pretty much all out on this. I might have a small piece is like on a 2-minute bar high, like just to be like, okay, I trailed out on that. But this is, on a 2-minute, this is kind of extended from this 5 EMA, and then also seeing that like 78.50 push, and then it's a little bit like a snapback, and then the volume. I think these are pretty good reasons to like be out if you were in this opening range break from like 81.25.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
if I have a trail on, you know, it's on a 2-minute and it's probably 25%, like at most, maybe 10%. But like, just I've been trying to get in the habit of doing that. But yeah, if anything, I got like a 2-minute trail.
How much do you risk on that opening range break though? Would it be a B size or a C size with the daily
Uh,
context?
so okay, opening range break. That was right here at 9:51. Okay, I will go to 9:51 really quick, and I would risk B on it. And the reason I say B, but it's like B and it's like initial kind of like wide risk, because when there's like a really wide candle like this, I will sometimes risk against the open of it. So instead of risking against 82.17, I'll sometimes be like 81.80. I don't really like an 81.80 stop. So like maybe it's probably like 82.01.
Gotcha.
But you know, so it's like 75 cents a risk. What's the ATR in this thing? ATR is 15. Again, that seems off. But yeah, 15's got to be completely wrong. Can
It's
someone?
about $7.60 is what my platform says, but that's a 10-day ATR. Not a
Okay, that's
14.
fine. Yeah, that sounds a lot more accurate. So $7 off of 83 gets us to what, 76. So, you know, that's where I kind of think the potential would be for something like this. So I'd be looking at the ATR on it. And so I'd say, okay, you know, it's in the lower range. It is an opening range breakdown. How's the RVOL on this? Okay, all right. If it hits like, you know, worthy, I'm thinking maybe like into 76 is like my better one ATR move on the day case. So okay, I'm risking 75 cents for maybe $5, like best case. I think that would get me to take this. And so I think risking B risk sounds right on this.
Gotcha.
I think daily context, I don't think there's a reason to like go a lot more, but this is what I would consider easy money trade.
I had a quick question. So right around this 9:43 as well, we got a breakdown of this, flag. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so would you be taking this flag breakdown as well at 9:43 or 44-ish on 1 minute if you go?
Oh, this flag? No.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you can make a case to say that's a puppy dog consolidation. That's not something I do great. I think the easiest money is just the opening range break, because I think horizontal lines are more powerful than trend lines.
Yeah, because this
'Cause
one,
everyone's looking at them. Like
yeah.
that's pretty clear where that spot is.
Is there any bigger time frame level aligning with it too, or not?
I don't think so. I will go to
No, I don't think so because we're in the middle of the whole range.
Yeah.
no middle of the
daily.
range. You know, why would I be looking for opening range breakdown short? Let's just go to Qs. I mean, this is what Qs look like this day. And what's a 5-minute look on them? It's below the range, it's below the moving averages, obviously below VWAP. Like, so this would be like, you know, market's weak. I'm looking for shorts, and PLTR has been in play. So I think it would make sense to look at that name. But yeah, if the market was strong, but you know, unless this had a really strong catalyst, this would not be, I think, a good trade. But I think given the market weakness, I think, you know, B minus or B risk makes sense. And for me, B minus is 15%. I'm one trying to lose in the day. Or sorry, B minus is 10% and B is 15. So, you know, it's not like something I'm putting, you know, risking a crazy amount on, but it's just like something to kind of cash flow and easy money on this one. Okay, so I'll play really quick the breakdown, and we saw that 10, and then I'm just gonna fast forward to it. I want to show the higher low on it. That's what I thought was valuable. Okay, so just through 81.30, I'm just hitting, and I'm risking, you know, like $1. All right, okay, so maybe I hit. Expectation is that this should be pretty quickly through 81. I'd also want to see some more volume come into this on this lower low break. On a 5-minute, I like the look of the 5-minute on this. where you had like one kind of bar on that before this break. Again, okay, now it's 81. All right, how did it act at 81? It got through it. Offers are in front. Okay, did you guys see that 80.99 really quick? It's like, there it is. Okay, gets through, see some green prints. Okay, it's still holding below. That's a sign to me telling me that this is working. So after I took that, after I see that little price action, okay, 81 holding again. Like this is something I'm like, okay, the trade is working, and I probably want to be like more patient with it. Like I'm not like taking this for 10 cents at here or thinking about taking off. I'm just thinking like it's doing the right stuff. And I think that's all the cues you really need to see to say, okay, the trade started working in the right direction, to say that it's like working. I don't think you need to like hyper focus too much past then. Okay, I saw some offers step down lower. Again, I'd be thinking, you know, it's doing the right stuff. So I don't want to waste all of our time. So I'm not going to play through to that, but I will go right to that 10 again. So here's that break that we were looking at. So now, you know, you're in this, it's been just trending lower and lower. If you're trailing on a 5-minute, you know, you're now, stop is now against 80. If you're trailing on a 2-minute, it's probably 79.50. You know, so you're initially risking a point. Now you're up like 2 or 3. I think it's perfectly reasonable at this point to kind of be looking, even though it hasn't made the full ATR move. You know, we thought that was at 76. I think you're still using tape-based exits. It's kind of extended from this 9 EMA, and on a 5, it's kind of extended from this 5 SMA. And we saw that, you know, the 78.50, like how's this acting here? Yeah, at this point, you know, I have a hard stop to get at everything back through 79.50. That wick and that volume and the extension, and then also this 5-minute. 5 minutes still pretty early in this candle, but for purposes of this, we will just say, okay, maybe I'm like, there's a 1 minute, maybe I'm like, just don't like that, so I just take off like half, and I still got like a 79.50. And the next spot I wanted to show was the 10.02 lower low.
All right, I'm back.
Everything good?
Yeah. German Shepherd jumped the fence yesterday when I was on a walk, and my dogs fucked it up pretty good.
Oh, damn.
And the lady showed up at the police and asked if I was willing to take care of the vet expenses. I told her, no, your dog jumped the fence. I told them to get it. So that's not our issue.
All right, so now, you know, we've got maybe a potential low, and this is like a little push down. And so now this is where I'm like, is there going to be a higher low that gets put in this context of like a rubber band? Rubber band, you know, I'm buying the 2-minute higher high. But I think the tape context of how it responds is important. If it takes out the low, you know, does it just take it in reverse? How does price action develop? So at this point, you know, if I'm looking to take this on a rubber band, I'm just buy stop through 2-minute high. And if I took it, I'm probably risking B- risk. I don't think this is a lot better than that, but I think it's still valid. So, okay, so through 79.25, there's my like rubber band long. Okay, I see some size in 19. That's good. See a lot of size in 19. And now I just got through it. So that would be my reason to get it flat and potentially like long, you know, it's against like 75 and was trailing on a 2-minute. I think that was the key spot. I think I want to go over on PLTR. So we covered this, I think that pretty good. Let's go on to 10x just to speed through. So this isn't. Anyone else here trade rubber bands or trade these type of setups?
Yeah, like this
All the
reverse here,
time.
I do.
Sweet. Okay, so how are you trailing your stop on this? What do you want to see? Where do you think you can go?
The best place to get them back to is VWAP.
Yeah.
So
that'd be the
if I
first
get a
spot.
good response, so like I'm watching on the 2-minute, if the 2-minute bars are strong, like really strong.
Yep.
The first 2 to 3 are strong. You're going to know that you have really good chance. So what I'll do is I'll hold my whole position. a lot of times, like on that first 1 minute bar, I'll enter half size. Reality, I'm not great at it because I always go too heavy too quick. But I'll take the size, when I saw that 1 minute bar high, then I'll watch a consolidation. Then I'll try to double my position size or, half it again up. And then you're just, let's say you get a break, consolidation break up. Right around here, what you do is you go and you add position size. It's a free trade. And VWAP's a really good key target on these. A lot of times you'll get a really good push up into VWAP. So into VWAP is where I'll look in. But reality, let's say I got really heavy on that breakthrough.
Yep.
I'm going to be really, really heavy on position size. So like right here into this push right there, I'd be out half of my position. Like I know that there's going to be a fight close to VWAP. So it's like, I'm not putting orders out at VWAP.
Right. Yeah. I would have been out right where I just hit that.
Yep. Right there. Yeah, exactly. Like right there, that's 90, 75, 80, 90% of my position. I'm looking for probability. Like probability is on that trade, 50% chance that you just hit the low. There's another 50% chance that we break that low. And on very low volume, you're going to start wicking. So regardless, your chance of you picking that turn, in my experience with my stats, is like 70%. So if I have a 70% win rate, 65-70% win rate on a trade like that, that's that clean. I'm not looking to play the thing back up to the high of day. I want to take, big size off the turn, consolidation. If we get good consolidation for 3 to 10 minutes up there, load the boat through. And then even if VWAP's real far away, just off that first big push off that consolidation, I just start unloading.
Nice.
It's just I figure after we get that push back up, usually there'll be like, a breakdown from a previous range. The range doesn't have to be big. You're going to get a big stall up at that previous range and then some sort of retracement most of the time. So I don't want to be carrying size into some retracement to come get stopped out.
Right. I think the spot you highlighted where you'd be adding, technically to me, that's the backside long. So trend breakdown.
Yep.
Trend breakdown, stage 1, stage 2, consolidation, and then the higher high.
Right there, that bar.
Yeah.
In this
right
whole
here.
formation. Yep. Well, okay. That bar is the one.
But right here.
That bar to the left, one bar. When you see that, so if that's going to fail, that bar would be red.
Right.
So once you see that bar break up, you get ready. And then like that bar right there is where you just load it. If a person likes to scalp, that probability of that trade at least getting a push up is like 90%. You're going to get a push up off of it. So you can miss you can miss timing the bottom. And if you get that backside scalp, on a good capitulatory move, that trade right there, that bar, once you see that bar form, you're going to get a push up. Like nothing's for certain, but once that's pushed in, you have potential to get a very, very nice, quick, really easy, stress-free trade out of it.
Nice.
I would argue that's more, if a person doesn't time these, a lot of times what happens is where you entered that trade, will come down just like this is lower volume on the bars following. You're going to break the low barely with some wicks. It'll do it for like 3-5 minutes, and then it will reverse up. So if a person isn't super experienced with these, it can be death by 1,000 paper cuts. But if you take what you call the backside scalp, you could make a killing off of just that one trade. Like that is a very, 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 especially like when you're coming into exhaustive selling, that area right there is like the highest probability of this entire move is on that bar. How much of a move did that give?
So the break was, the higher high break was at 80, and then this ends up stopping at 81. So it gives you a point.
Yeah, yeah, and like if a person really wants to, that trade you can skip the entire, you can skip your entire trying to catch the bottom. If someone wants to get involved in these, that second trade, that's the trade right there where it's like it's so low stress. You already know that there's buying coming in. As long as it's going to sound really odd, but the push back up where we saw there, you don't want there to be a ton of volume on that push up. You actually kind of want to see it do the opposite, because it kind of goes to show that in the opposite, sellers are exhausting and they're not fighting to push it back down. So it's something that always got me for the longest time is you'd be thinking like, oh man, this bounce should have increasing volume. Which
Hey, Andrew. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
No, you're good.
Hey, so the backside scalp says that it needs to perform a higher low. What you were saying is that it can actually wick the low.
So no. So the capitulate, this start, or where he took that first entry, right? One of the biggest issues where you're trying to pick the bottom, and where I see so many people do this, is you get that big, let's say your biggest volume bar coming down.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're going to get that biggest, the volume is going to be increasing. And so you'll enter that position. And a lot of times you'll watch it just, kind of like go sideways to wick below. What you'll notice is it's going to wick below on really low volume.
For the green candle.
Yeah. Let's say where that green candle was, a lot of people will pick the bottom, and I've been so bad at this. Yeah, that candle right there, it would actually go and wick below, kind of go sideways for a minute or two. But if you watch, you'll see that happen all the time, and it'll be on just such light volume.
That's why I wanted to highlight this 1002 is I wanted to show that, you had the 10, the flush down, and then I want to show the 1002 like higher low, because this was an attempt to do that, and you can kind of see where it stopped, in my opinion. So
yes, super. I would be on that bar right there. I just know myself, that 10 o'clock bar, personally, I would already enter a position there. All right. I would be dumb. And then I would be super confident by that 1002 bar. I'd be like, okay, they've tried twice. That would be your great spot to enter the trade right there. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so we got tape for that, and then this like layup spot, like the easy, okay, so maybe this sounds like you hear people looking for a bottom on it. We're now finally feeling better about it, and you're like, have no position, you're just looking. That backside scalp, that is the easier, like if you're looking at, you have any kind of FOMO because other people are in that, or you heard that about it, what you're waiting for is for sure this backside scalp entry. Like you're not just like, you're not getting in here, you're not just randomly paying anything. Because if you follow FOMO, you probably pay right here at 79.90, and you probably puke back out in one of these, and then it goes without you. Like the higher probability is just that, like.
And I used to do exactly what you're saying, where I'll miss the bottom, then I'll go catch it halfway up. Then you get the push down, you get out of it. Now, if I don't hit like the bottom within that 2-minute candle, I will wait. And a lot of times what will happen is you'll get that capitulation volume, and the 2-minute candle will be too much for you to want to risk. The risk is just too high on it. So you'll miss your entry. And so in the past I'd chase. Now I won't chase. I just wait for it to go sideways. And the chance of that backside, that second leg, even if it's going to fail, it's going to give you a nice push up first.
So can I ask one more thing? So that would be, I guess, if you thought the thing was going to reverse and you've been missing it, like, you get in and it bites you, you could then just, instead of trying to pick bottoms anymore, just wait for the backside scalp.
100%. Like
I'm saying that for myself. That sounds like the right thing to do.
Well, so like my whole goal on the trade, and the reason I'm trying to pick essentially right still front side turning into your V is, let's use just like position size. If I can get something on close to that first bottom, that second leg up, I can put so much more size on and still have a really good average price. That's like always my goal, is because my first position is usually not my big position. It's just funding my high probability trade that I find out of it, where I can really like lean into size, if that makes sense. Like if I can just, let's use, for example, you're just using 100 share lots. If you could get on, let's say, at a 100 share lot, well, on that backside scalp, you could only get, let's say, your average 100 position size. Well, when you have that bounce, that pullback in the backside, if you have something on up front, now you can put on another 200 shares. So 300 shares coming through that second leg, but your risk is still going to be the exact same as if you only had on 100 from the second leg. So essentially you're funding the trade by having a really good average price on that first entry to put on a lot more size. Like Anthony, you could do that. Go, yep, from right there. Now, right, I would put on another tier right here. So quick buy one more time. I want to see what your average price does.
Show update. There it is.
Okay, so now watch this. When we come up through the high here, add one more, you would add one more tier right here, because it would put your average price right there. So I would hit right here. My average price is so great where now I'm running that and my stop is sitting right there.
79. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of my average price being up here on 100 shares, I'm now in 300, and look at what my average price is. So I don't need a big push out of this now to really fund a great, great, great trade. And so that's how I trade these all the time. Another thing I'm always doing is I'm kind of watching the 5 minute. Like you can see when I was trading QBTS in the top, I was trading it. But what you can do is when I see the 5 minute show a really good, give me a good 5 minute, I can hammer it there knowing like, okay, the turn should be in. But as long as I have something to start with, just something to start with, you now can start using so much bigger position sizes and you don't need massive moves. So your initial risk of, let's say, $50 on that can turn into a $400, $500 win really quickly. And so like this right here, speeding up, I would be taking off a ton into right here. Like I'd be off so much of that trade right here. There's no, the chance of us getting some sort of retest or push back down to that previous range, markets like to try everything twice. So we'd like to retry and retest that bottom. There's no point of me sitting in the trade with big size. Like my move, the high probability move is done here.
Yeah, and I think you just take it and move on.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you do. A lot of my dumb learning has been like you get this big bounce up and then you keep on trying to play it. You keep on, and it's just no man's land.
Yep. So what got me to basically be like, okay, I'll get flies, gets over 81, gets back through. Sometimes it does that and then it goes way higher, but that's kind of how I try to treat these.
Does that management seem about right though?
Yeah, for sure to me as well. Because the first trade is the capitulation timing, which I don't know how great of variables were there to say is that, because the daily level, the overall extension from everything, but it is extended. So I think the next one is then the rubber band, which is, the 2 minute higher high. And then the next one for me that sets up is just the backside. And so you can kind of like, it's like, just think about like, okay, well, what's the next trade that sets up from this sequence? And a lot of times you get them setting up kind of like that.
Yeah, and here's how I think you can look at it too. So like you can look at it as you could try and hold your whole position, because let's say 1 in 5 of these, you can take this trade, which is super high probability, get out a majority of it, maybe leave 10, 20%, get out a majority of it, and then call it good. Or what you can do is you can hold your entire position to break even. And yeah, 1 in 5 of these is now going to trend the opposite way the entire day. But by the time I do the math, what's going to end up happening is 4 out of 5 times, well, 2 out of 7 times, I'm going to get stopped out for a decent loss. 4 out of 7 times, I'm gonna get stopped out break even, and that one time I'm gonna catch the big trend day. And by the time you average all the profits, it's all going to come out to be about the same. So I want to take the base hit on it over and over again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you had some good context on that, and I like how you trade those as well with looking for the ad spots.
Is that your normal ratio of 1 part, then 2 part, twice as much?
Whatever I can fund. So like, let's think about this. If that first bounce was bigger, I can add even more to get my average price better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if your first push up is even bigger and you're not like chasing, what it's going to do is once you do get that consolidation, you can add even more. So like on some of them, you'll be able to add two times, 3 times your position. But when I see like a good, okay, if it's a crap rubber band, I may use, let's say, a smaller position size where my judging of it is always coming off that first entry. So let's say you're using 100 share lots. If it's a B, I may go and use, let's say you're using 100 shares. When I finally find one that's like an A, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to run 250 shares. Let's say if that was I'll run 2 or 2.5 times my position size so that my second ad is just so much bigger. So the trade is always judged on my first initial ad or my first initial position. That second position, just where you saw Anthony, like you can kind of figure out what your average price is going to be. I want my average price to be, towards the lower end of where my stop will be on my ads. So I don't want it to be under it because I still not really wanting the trade to be a break-even trade. I want to have a little bit of the probability so high that I still want a little risk where I lose if the trade came back, but it's not going to be a big loss. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it depends on how much profit you've already got in the trade to use.
Yes. And so like it's always kind of average price based. Like I'm kind of wanting a third to halfway in between that bar to add to that point on the second leg because it's such a high probability trade.
If your entry was kind of bad on the rubber band and the backside was real shallow, then the
I
ad can be very good.
I can't sit there and just load the boat on the ad because then I'm putting a lot of risk on it.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, if I have nothing into that, I'm probably risking B- or B.
Yeah, that's not an A+ trade by any means. Yeah, and so like with that, exactly what you said. Your risk on it up front isn't going to be great. I do like the quality of that rubber band, what did you guys call it, backside?
Yeah,
I'd rate that B backside as well. The best case scenario for me on those rubber or on that backside is it goes sideways and holds and almost like he says, build the horizontal line for another 5 to 10 minutes. Because the longer it consolidates sideways, you have to think there's more people shorting it, thinking that's going to be the next play. So that next leg will be even more explosive.
Anyone got any more questions on that one? I got like quick 250 breakout, like failed breakout on this, and then the 250 breakout in the afternoon. And then if anyone wants, we can look at QBTS, but that's all I got. This is not Friday.
Go for it.
Yeah, go.
Okay. All right. So Tesla, this is that 250 level on Friday, right off the open. You can see it's resistance, previous resistance, broke, held, and now it's kind of back into it. And so this is like definitely a key inflection point. So it's going to play this 1 minute. Now, the way I do this, I think if you the way I get in trouble is if I like sell in front of it or short in front of it. And the better trade for me is when it pokes through it and then pokes back under, I can just kind of risk against the high. And if it's really tight risk, I'm probably C plus. If it's like to maybe like B minus type risk. But so at this point it's tested 250, it's coming into it, and then now it's like, is it going to get above? Is it not? So if I'm early, I'm have a high risk to reward but a lower probability. And if I'm more patient for it, it's only better. Should happen anywhere here. Okay, so it's above 250, and so now I probably just have like 249.99 sell stop, and I'm just ready to be against the high. So at this point, I kind of like, look, I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's 30 cents of risk, maybe 50 cents. So kind of the way it's done now, probably be B minus to C plus for sure. We're against the high, so was that 50 cents? Probably gonna have to hit out.
Is there a point where this goes too high where you're not willing
So
to do it
so now
anymore?
my stop was 50 cents. I would have just lost on that, and then I'm probably just willing to retry it back through 50. And so if it's C plus risk, it's like small scratch. And then so I'll just retry that against 50 cents. And again, it's like, we're seeing like maybe 5% over 2 tries, and then but then now it works, and it's like when you catch it, it's better. But yes, this is a little bit of like a stuff scalp, a little bit of a fail to follow through. You could also call it if you're looking at support and resistance and you're trying to like be on the right side of it, I think this is a way to do that. I'm going to play 10x from this point. What was your question? Sorry, it was just focused.
You let it break, you put in a sell stop to enter. Like there's a point where it goes, like your risk gets so out of control, you just decide that you're not going to do it. Like
if it goes up to 251 and now it's like I'm risking $1, it's like kind of different versus if it's like maybe 50 cents.
Do you have an area in mind, like before you go into it, like at this point I'm going to change my plan, or you just let it tell you what it's going to do?
Normally just kind of let it tell me what it's going to do.
Yeah, okay.
And then just maybe drilling down like a 1 minute for like momentum, which has yet to trigger. Right now it'd be 46.50. But you're probably thinking VWAP, or you're probably thinking a prior level, which in this case was probably like 248 or so. It's just like, it's just a tape scalp that can sometimes turn into more like it is doing at this point. And you're not doing it with the random level, you're doing it with like, the 250 level is definitely a level.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about a good range, you could get a lot out of something like this.
Yeah. So I would have been, maybe out on the tape scalp portion. And if you have a bigger thesis in mind, all of a sudden you have a nice entry and you have profits from the momentum trade. Yeah, this is all I had on this one. It's just a really quick example of and also highlighting where I get in trouble. So if I get in in the 249.99 sell stop, it's something I'm probably willing to like try twice, and I'm thinking maybe like 10% of my risk on the day I'm willing to give it. Sometimes I'll get in trouble trying more than once, and it's definitely like an error. But I think giving it like 2 tries and just spacing out the risk where it's like you're not going to be beat up. I think like if a B plus is 20% risk, I think it makes sense to like be risking half that over 2 tries. And then it is tape based, and so in reality, an error I have is after I've taken 1 loss for 50 cents, I'm probably more inclined to take off half for $1 just to like make up for that loss. I think it's kind of an error. I think the right way is just to trade it how it's setting up. But yeah, this kind of goes to show like even it's like on a 2-minute trail or a 1-minute trail, like maybe I'm thinking, oh, I should take off at 48 or 47, but it's like if you kind of let these things run out, sometimes you get a little bit more. But yeah, that's all I got in this one. And it's just you have a level you're looking at, and then it's just kind of taking the right side of it, coming back through it. especially in this higher volatility environment, I think it's more likely to happen. Prad highlighted that SMB video that they break out the playbook for VIX over 20. And I think one thing that they mentioned that to me was like, oh yeah, it's definitely true. Is like in a higher VIX environment, you're just more likely to get pokes through levels and then reversals. And so I thought this was a good example of that specific dynamic within this one.
Very much a good point to keep in mind too when you're looking at something like this.
Yeah. Okay, next, I'm going to look at what this looks like coming back through 50. I think a lot of us took this one.
Well, this one did at the end of the day on Friday, wasn't it? Or towards the end?
Yep.
Yep, okay.
Okay, looks like I have the wrong time. 37. Oh, I did have the right. I had it written down. I just typed it wrong. So I think what makes this one good is, you know, one, we know 250 is a big level. Two, this is Friday. And then just looking on a 1 minute, you can see test. Like this 250 is definitely a spot. And then now it's kind of come up to it and it pulled off it, but it retraced this like into this 9 EMA, which it ends up holding. To me, I think it's hard to be like, I'm going to buy a pullback after this because it's like a level just acted as resistance. So it's, if you take this, I don't know where your stop is. To me, the high probability is like, okay, I can take this through 250 and I can have my risk be pretty tight on that momentum. So I got a 250.01 buy stop, and then I got a 249.70 sell stop ready to go. So as soon as it breaks, I'm just hitting enter because it can be pretty quick. So right now, a little bit of fight at 250. You see that some of the size there. See how it's getting tight. You can even risk against 94 since you just saw 95 hold right before that break. So yeah, you're going to get slipped a little bit, but it's kind of giving you that structure of like the last bid to hold before the breakout should still, you know, like it shouldn't be able to break and then re-break down back through that. So I did take this and I got it filled at like 250.13. I think some of you guys took this as well and were filled right around that same zone. Right now it's holding above 250. That's good. I like it when these are like already up $1. That's my favorite subset. The fact that it's kind of like holding above, but in this range, to me, decreases the explosiveness of it. Like if it was instantly up $1 in the money, at that point I'm thinking, okay, maybe this closes like 260. But a break and kind of hover above, I'm thinking that it's not as good, but it's still sustainable. You know, the action of it to continue to grind from this is sustainable. It's not a huge buy order through that. I think trailing on a 2 minute makes sense. I also think on a 1 minute also makes sense. I think the key spot was just leading up to 50. I think some of this is a little noisier, so I'm playing through quicker. And any questions now is probably perfectly fine too. At this point, you really don't want it. Like, it's not a second chance if it comes back to 50. It's like a failed breakout if it comes back to 50, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
At this point, I think you can trail momentum piece against 251, just that one candle low. So, okay, maybe I'm out a piece there, and then maybe the other piece I'm trailing on a 2 minute. It kind of just depends on how, you know, how much room you want to be allowing it. But I think for sure, if you take that breakout into the breakout scalp, I think you for sure want to be taking something off on a 1 minute lower low like this. I mean, just because, you know, at this point, it's like 4 or 5 times your initial risk in the money. I mean, it's like a tape scalp, you know, maybe a slippage. It's like a 3 to 1 or 4 to 1, but like nonetheless, I think it makes sense to at least have taken a quarter on something like that. And then now it's like, you know, if it's going to keep working, it's going to bust through highs and quickly be over 252. And, you know, now in a 2 minute, what's your stop? 80s. About to be 51 again. Yeah, so now your stop's 251. If it's going to work, it's going to break on this candle, I think, after this test, or it's going to hold up higher. I think the subset where it gets back below 251 at this point after this. It's the subset where it's not working. This is on 5x, so we don't waste our time. I think this has gone on way longer than I initially intended. All right, so now you're just against this low. Yeah, so I'd be out. And so, you know, now if you have a thesis and this goes to 260, I think the dynamics of it is like, yeah, you probably just risk break even back through 250. And if this is just a tape scalp and you're just looking for a little bit of momentum, I think you've now kind of gotten it. Yeah, that's all I got on this Tesla here. The big opportunity one was QBTS. Do you guys want me to run through this, or is this kind of overtime for most of you guys?
No, let's go through it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fine. I want to see it.
Okay. All right. QBTS. The first spot I got that I think is of interest is the opening range breakout that is setting up at this point in time. So to get the full rep, again, on these highlight reel reps, I think one, we've actually run through quite a bit of trades here. Okay, why is this not letting me go daily? Okay, we'll do it on this one. Okay, so daily chart. They released earnings. There's upcoming catalyst next week with NVIDIA, and then also there's like some random like quantum computing summit based thing. And so it's probably running with some of that, and then also earnings, and also their quote scientific breakthrough PR, along with the dilution that was in place. So dilution in place, but it's holding higher. It means some shorts are going to be caught on this one. So I think that is something to be looking at. The bag holder level, Andrew, at this point in time, where are you thinking bag holder levels? Are you thinking you're just thinking like 950, this like gap fill?
We have one at 966.
Okay.
996.
Okay.
1024 and 1045.
Okay, so in this zone, from this close right here to this candle, so you're looking the back holders. That sounds like we're in between here and here. So if this is setting up in a opening range breakout, I guess you are thinking it's got like maybe 50 cents a room, 60 cents a room. Your risk is probably at least 10 cents back through 9, maybe 15 cents through, or 20 cents through 889. So okay, so you're thinking maybe it's like a 3 to 1-ish, but the structure is there for it. So here's what this 2-minute looks like at the time. It's on pause now because it's going to be pretty quick. So there is this failed breakout above 9. That stuffs, comes back lower, a little wash lower, and that's consolidated on it. So I think if I'm going to take this, I don't think 9 is the level. I think 910 is the level. Just the new high day on the opening range breakout. It's strong opening move, consolidation in the upper zone. I think that's worthy. So now we're just going to play this. Granted, this isn't like my best trade. I'm not very good at catching small cap. This is not a low float, but also not with like the low floats. These type of things on the long side, it's not like my historically my best setups. I've been a lot more on the short side, but I can recognize that if I was short, it's exactly what I don't want to see and the type of variables that would burn me. So now it's through 911. So okay, so I just take it and I'm just against either 890 or back through 9. And this is just an opening range breakout.
Most of the time when these things go, shorts do not get the opportunity of leniency on them. So like once you're in these, sure, they can work, but like if this thing, you have to think of it like this way. If this thing were to hit below 890, there's a really good chance it's going to be 840 in a minute after that.
Yeah.
So with these, it's one of the very few trades that when you take, be really quick to enter, but also like Anthony's style of taking profits on this. I'm not looking for like, oh, it's going to hold this range here, make a higher low. Like once they start going, take your profits, take what it gives you, and whatever you do, don't give these things too much risk.
So this has made a 1 minute lower low from this continued move. My momentum move on this, I think, has slowed down. So my momentum side of this is, in my opinion, kind of done, and maybe I'm trailing on a, with like a moving average or whatever. If there's really a theory, it goes more. For me, I would stupidly probably be completely out of this, and it's just because my patience on, after there's a trend break signal is like just not there. But what I will say is I've gotten in trouble on the short side before, being like, that's it, I'm short, I'm against the high. And these like little 1 minute pullbacks that don't start making lower lows from there are the subset of ones that continue to trend.
Well,
So
here's how I look at this. Okay, any short that wasn't smart enough right there to get out, he just shorted more.
Yeah.
So once you get the turns, I think if a person wants to play them this way, take your profits quick, play them on a short time frame, and then you see sustained buying, you'd be better off buying through the highs again. Right? Like keep on you're going to be a lot more active in a stock like this, because once they do finally puke, a lot of times they puke really hard and really fast.
Yeah.
This one hasn't been acting that way, which has been really interesting.
Yeah, it's acting like someone's trapped and they're just T-wopping.
Yeah.
Andrew, where would your stop be on a long side on this? Would you be against this low here, or would you be wider?
On that 1 minute candle, when I'm long these things, I'm taking off like 75%. If it's trending like it was, 75% where you took off.
Yeah.
Like I'm out 75%. The rest is just your lottery. So like coming back through this high on this wedge that we just built, coming back like, one bar over till, right there. No, right where you were. I would re-enter right there with 50% of my original position. And with these, like on that second leg, I don't ever trade them with like, oh, I'm going to manage it, let's say off of a 1 minute. Because a lot of times what you'll see like a complete disconnect from price, and they'll start extending really fast because now you have shorts on both sides. They shorted near the highs, then they just shorted that last leg. You're going to get a really big extension. Like the bar like this, I'm not trailing this underneath that 1 minute bar. I get a bar printed like that, I'm selling. Like I won. Like it's how you're trading probability. Once you broke that second bar's high after we took the first profits, buy again. It gets a good push up. You're literally just dumping into the pushes because you're trading momentum. And the momentum can shift so fast. And so then right here, for example, if you wanted, when I'm dumping on the strongest bar, if you want to, just reload again. You're still carrying 25%. You reload it back to 50%. You just got another push up. You just keep doing that until it doesn't work. Right? Or that's how I trade them, and all the big small cap guys I know, that's how they trade them. Because a lot of times what you'll do is you'll get a big wicked out bar that comes down, stops you out, and then just does it all over again.
I think at this point in the move, if I have anything left, I think a 2 minute trail is where I'm using on this personally.
Yeah. And I mean, reality, you just went from $9.10 all the way up to $9.70. Like the stock's up 5%,
Big move or something like that.
Yeah. Like you won. And so like the one thing I do is like, if I am trading these, time and consolidation, you just wait for the momentum, like once I see, I'm still probably holding 25% here. But like on a push like this push coming through the high again, I'm taking off more, and you just slowly are trailing out of it, you know? I think the biggest issue is people try to trade these like they're going to trade a large or a mega cap, and you get run over if you do that. When you look down, you're like, wow, this is a big move. You should probably take some off.
75 breaks, I'm out. So
Yeah.
I would have been out. Yeah. So I would have been out on that.
And here's the thing. What
And
kills
this is just the 2 minute plus that tape of seeing 75 as a bid and then plus that. I think that's where I would be.
What kills people on these is 1 in 100 of these. That's really about what it is. 1 in 100 of these is going to go skip up $5. And you're going to look at every other trade and you're like, wow, why didn't I hold it? Well, because you're still going to be net negative if you're not taking profits on the others.
How long does that skip take?
You're going to start noticing because bars get really big really quick. You
But
know,
it's still-
the skip, like when these things finally disconnect 5 minutes, I mean.
No, well, that still gives you time to get out. It's not like it's a 10-second jump and it skips down 25%.
Oh, when they finally come back down a minute.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this one's not acting the same way. It's like he's saying, like, this one's not acting the same way, but like a lot of times, well, CRVO is a good example of that the other day. Goes and skips up 60 cents, and before you could make a single sale, the thing's below the entry price, and you're like, what just happened? This is going to be, they suck people in. A lot of times these come from a failed breakout. Like if you're on.
Speaking of failed rate, it's about to happen. So you're looking
Okay.
at right now, 90 cent is the level. I just went from a 5x to 1x speed to slow it down.
Yeah.
Should be happening in this scandal here. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so 91's the breakout, 92 is held. And so for me, I trade these just back through 90. And I'd probably just be against straight up 10. That is what that failed breakout is looking like. So it's like it breaks it, you'd expect it to be up at 10, but all of a sudden, 2 cents higher is holding. I think that's like the first signal.
The other thing you can really watch on these is volume. Like the volume when your high is finally put in, it'll go and break to make a high, and you'll have no volume behind it. So like, let's say I was short up here. Well, I was short up here. I was short up here from that previous breakdown at 11 o'clock. I was still short here. And I remember someone asking me like, have you gotten out? I said, no, I'm watching volume. What you start seeing is the volume in them. There's no volume to push this thing through. So we know it's a better trade. It's an even better trade now than if it would have failed before, because you sucked more people in long. And you can see it on the volume. The volume on these things will just dry up on that last breakout. And so you can see on my entries, like on my chart, where I finally added, because I mean, this was the heaviest. I made more on this trade than I made my whole entire week combined. But I also still screwed up by my first couple paper cuts from rushing it. But what you can notice is I'm watching. What you'll see is if you put a 5 minute up, you're going to see a 5 minute bar form. And that's once that 5 minute bar is formed, that's when I was in, I was in really, really big size, just adding and adding and adding. I think I had like 9 ads on the backside of
I think that right there, that was a really key spot. I'm going to.
Yes.
I'll play that right back through.
Yeah, that was when I hit right here. So like I know position size. So like let's say position size right where you were in, I was in like 2,500. We saw that bar went to 5,000.
Watching ask 92 just held. It looked like it was going to break, and 92 just held, and then now it's holding lower.
Yep. And so I added right there, and then when the 5 minute bar formed was when I just started like adding and adding and adding and adding, because at that point that was our turn.
That push through was specifically like the trigger you're looking for.
That was when I
right?
finally, yeah, because you remember I went really big, came down, I scalped out back to my core position. Then we came back up through, and someone asked, like, "Are you out?" I said, "No, I'm just watching volume." Then when we saw this, Anthony re-hit here, and I went back to bigger size. If you go to a 5-minute bar on this up top, you're going to see, and I can show my entries on it, but you can see when that 5-minute bar is finally formed, that's when I went into like kill everything mode back to VWAP. And I think like on this, it shows one thing, but like it was really apparent and violent. Like you could see also on time and sales, you could see like the tape.
Here's your 5-minute.
Yeah, the tape had completely flipped. So he added right here, or he and I got in right here again. So I'm back heavy again. Yeah, this was like
holding.
It was just like when it just sat there. There was that point of time where the thing had like 0 prints just sitting still. And so the 5-minute bar was my really big key on this. The 5-minute bar closed perfectly. And that's when I had now I had like something definitively to risk off of.
Are you risking highs by a penny or are you risking 10?
Once that 5-minute bar forms, it's the high by 2 pennies. So I don't ever risk, especially on like these smaller caps, I don't ever risk the high with 1 penny. I risk the high with 2.
Okay.
Right? You're going to see the bar form. And right here after this is when I just started loading the boat. And because we were in that bag holder level, I got too confident too early. Plus, we didn't have a ton of opportunity this week. So like I could have traded this. I could have traded this one better for sure.
Yeah, I also could have traded this just many multiples better. But
yeah, I
think
that
it
was
for me, it was a really good learning rep though, because I got the rep in real time. I saw the stuff in real time, and then I later in review rep, defined the exact moment in time where I should have been risking a different amount. And I think that's how I get my best review reps.
Yeah, and I mean, I was analyzing afterwards, and it was like, okay, it wasn't a super busy week. Because it wasn't super busy and a person has bills, I was pretty anxious because, a lot of times these things will pick up speed really quick. We hit my bag holder area, which the chances of you making it through that bag holder area with the momentum that it was having is like so low. But right here, that bar was when I just started going ballistic. Yeah, that close of that 5-minute bar was because now I have something where like I will risk right off the top of that bar, but this thing should not. You could see the change of pace and like the tape and this time in sales. The time in sales now at this point, yeah, like it was just a sea of red.
It's good context, and the volume backs it up. That second attempt to push through can't get through.
That was the one where I was finally like, "Wow, you idiot! You just gave back a quarter, 25 cents of paper cuts. So that first quarter is just getting you back to break even."
50 cents holding. I think 50 cents is a big, this is probably what got a little bit of panic in.
Yeah,
was the 50-cent break plus hold. I should have been covering more into the break that ensued from there.
Yeah, so I mean, and on stocks this size, your whole dollars, around your whole dollars, 10 cents above or below, and the half dollars.
Watching this back through, saying 50 cents break, retest, hold, and then get back through, and then stay weak on it, kind of makes sense why, when this does end up going, it really flushes out, because this is kind of what lures, I think, some buyers in. It's that price action that we just kind of saw, like the pullback buyers. Not me, but just in general.
Yeah. And like when you hit that, once we had that 5-minute bar in, I've watched this so many times that your chance of hitting VWAP before breaking that high, I would say you have a 75%. I mean, it's really, really high that this thing is coming back to VWAP before it has anything to do with going to the highs. And the other thing that we always watch on these is a lot of these moves, what you're going to do is you're going to hit VWAP, you're going to bounce for, let's say, 5-10 minutes, right? You go sideways, it'll look like it's putting in a higher high, the first one, then it will roll over, and that's when they start puking to take out the low of day. But you almost always at VWAP are going to have these things go sideways for some portion of time. And that's what I think I did in this trade was I was like out 75 or 80% at VWAP. Then if we were to come back, curl back around, I just throw the whole entire position right back on. And then on that profit target at VWAP, if we were to break VWAP and start picking up momentum, I will take, if we're going to go back, and so I added right on, anything I pushed and took in that push down into 50s, I put back on right. The whole position was like right around here. And when we go back towards VWAP, if we break that, your stop isn't the day's opening print, it's the previous day's close. And then if that breaks, it's your previous day's open. You'll usually get these things to stop. And so Lucas flips. Usually he'll flip and go long at the previous day's open. And just a heads up for anyone who in the future trades these things. That's where you'll watch like Lance and Lucas take the capitulation reversals will be at the previous day's open when they puke.
So I think 75 breaking and then 70 also breaking is kind of that right side of the V on this lower high.
And you remember we were watching on the tape, and when you and I were watching on the tape, we were just talking the whole time like this is the time in sales just showed like this is really, 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 really weak. You had that kind of initial push up, and then the thing just started dying again.
I think that was the key part of this lower high. I think it was just that.
Yeah, because now
I'll slow it once it gets below, if it gets below 50. I mean, I already know what happens, but if.
Yes. Yeah. And so like right here, I'll go look at my executions right around. Yeah. So right here is when I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ads on this push down right here. And the big thing is so whatever I look at the length of that first leg to the left right here, it's going to make that size leg again, if that makes sense. It'll make the same size leg again, then bounce. Your next bounce should be even weaker, and that's where you can put it back on. It's like when I trade these, I'm not just trading the move back to VWAP and holding. So whatever this size push was on that first leg from 11, 10, 12, and 14, I'm adding. So that 2-minute bar 2 minutes ago, I added 3 times on that bar. Then coming through this right here, I added at the beginning of the bar, or at the cross of that bar right there, the previous bar's low, I added there. And then when we break this low, I add again.
I like this. Yeah, I like this add through that. I think I've heard it referred to as the H.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what I do is we'll get a big push down here. I'll cover into that push half of my position. So I'll cover half of my position into it. Then we'll get the last bounce will come back. Usually I'm looking at to come back. The next bounce will come back somewhere into right here, this area, right? It just starts stair stepping down, just like that previous came back to that previous high. Our next bounce should come back to this level. And once it comes back to this level, so I dump into this, then all you do is once it comes back up to that level we were just at, I just reload. And so then I'm still going back in right up to full size all over again. And then you just puke. When you come into VWAP, I think I was at like 80, it was either like 75, 80, 90% there. And if it holds that and goes sideways and then starts breaking down again, you just re-put the entire position back on all over. Because so stats on this trade. If this thing's going to break from highs to lows, its low of the day, it should be within an hour and a half. So like if you look at MSTR, within an hour and a half, it'll make its big low. When MSTR went to low, so it'll make its big low. It'll make those 2 legs, the 2 big legs within an hour and a half. Then it will go sideways until right around the last 2 hours to hour and a half of the day. And if it's going to make its final push, it does it then. But here's the thing, stats on this trade. If this was even to go to the low, okay, if this was going to go to the low of day, we still have a 50% chance that it will close in the top third of the range. Meaning it will bounce all the way back up to the top third. So if you take these, once you hit that low, don't just think like, oh, I'm going to hold till the low of the day. Take off pretty much your whole entire position and then wait for the last 2 hours of the day.
Looking back at this is a little bit of a second chance scalp on a 5-minute. This is 950 is a level. Now here's a retest, and here's a lower low from that.
Yeah, and this right, where was it? Yeah, right here, I reloaded the whole entire position back here and then took it into the puke into VWAP. And that's something I really, really, really need to get better at, is if I have opportunity all week, I trade these really well. My problem is, when you're hurting and you have to pay bills, that does, and I haven't had a ton of action. I am always, a person could literally watch me when I say I'm entering for the first time, just wait 20 minutes. Like just don't even trade them, wait 20 minutes and I will routinely pick the top the second time, not the first.
Always early.
Always. It's like tomorrow, right now on Twitter or X, this is like talked about by a ton of people. Like a lot of the big guys are grading it. They're grading, and everyone in the small cap group that I'm part of is talking about it. And
How
so
are they
like
rating it?
B+.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, they're like B plus. I mean, well, I know. So like, I know one of the guys I trade with, he will be risking 6 figures on it tomorrow.
Is that contingent on a gap up?
If it can get gap up, yes. If he's from Europe, so he'll be in early in the morning. And so the whole goal here is if it can gap up tomorrow pre-market, you want to see, your first high put in 2 to 3 hours before the opening. Then you want to see the hourly bar before the opening is ideally where you can put your starter position on. And then after that, yes, that's where we're all looking to trade it. Like it will be this tomorrow morning will be all I'm watching.
Nice. Yeah, this is a main focus for me too.
Yeah. And so, and the biggest thing remembering is, like the true, we're coming into a really good bag holder area. We have a bag holder area in between 1024 and 1140 is massive. So ideally, we at least get a push up to like 1080 in the morning would be incredible.
So for me, okay, VWAP test, and then now I just made a 5-minute higher high. I think if you took this on a reversion trade, I think you got to be out somewhere in here. Because ultimately when you're taking it, you're thinking VWAP's great. It's like a target. It's not like all day. So
VWAP is your high probability trade on this.
Way I did this here is very much it got below VWAP and I just lean against 901. I think in reality, I'm taking profits all the way into it. And then if I'm trailing a piece, this like higher high through it, I think is where I want to be out completely.
VWAP was 901. I took my first cover at 911 and my second cover at 903. So those were the two areas I took all my size off on it.
I think this pretty much is the end of this reversion. It's like mission accomplished. We saw the see it moment. So we saw the opening range break in the long, and then we saw the failed break of the highs, and then we saw the fill to follow through, which you don't always get, but that's like an additional confirmation. So I think if the trade was a B, I think the confirmation makes it a B plus. I think if the trade's a B plus, I think it makes it an A minus just on that confirmation.
Yeah, and like the one thing that should give more context to it was that last leg up. If you're looking at percentages, I believe I remember looking at it, it was like 9 to 11% above VWAP. The big thing about it with that trade was knowing like that last failure towards the high, the bars weren't getting bigger on the 5-minute. Yep. So there's still a ton. The stock isn't disconnected from price at that point. Like no matter what the move was on it. So the VWAP trade there, because the bars, like if you're going to get an all day reversion back down, you're either usually getting a gap up or these bars. Like if you look at the 10:30ish around that time where you went long. Yeah. Those bars that look big right there. Yep. Right there, that bar, your next one over. If this was going to be right there. If this is going to be an all day fader, the bars are going to start looking like that. They'll be getting bigger, not smaller. So they've done a really good job containing the stock. So ideally, if you guys are watching this tomorrow pre-market, watch your hourly bar to see what's happening. Your Robinhood and your Thinkorswim bars are the really big bars that will tell you how these are usually going to play out. And you just watch for a lower high to get put in And you can normally, like on a stock like this, you should be able to find 4 to 6 cents to risk off of to start, a position.
My 2 cents, this is not even a short to begin with until the event's over. Wait till the event's over, sell the news. The sector is too strong. If you want to use a barometer for the sector, check out IonQ. Bouncing from the 200-day moving average, the short on the intraday is fine. But if you zoom out for a second, you'll see how like the $9 area earlier in the day off the open was actually in a way like Lance called this. Lance says most of the stocks, like if you're looking for a quote unquote capitulation, they will happen like around 10 o'clock or earlier. But that's not textbook capitulation. This is like an opening drive capitulation. So if you're looking for that, how fast QBTS went from the low a day into the $9 area, it's like 1 ATR plus. So ideally, when that fake break of 9 happens or a failed break of 9 happens, the stock should reverse from there, go into VWAP, set up for a fashionably late scalp, and then continue breaking down. But because the sector is so strong and because the event is happening in next week, I think that short is I would say not even viable where you guys were kind of talking about it. Instead, what I did was I took the $9 short. I got stopped out on the break of the size. I did not punch back later on. The reason why is it had a capitulatory move off the open, 1 plus ATR, but it went sideways. So price was being accepted. Price is now being normalized as this is the new norm for today. We're gonna hold the stock up here. So in that case, that mean reversion from that $9 failed to VWAP is not even something I was looking for. I was more so looking for how can I now join the trend. So the VWAP dip buy, which was kind of a second chance scalp also, is where I actually got along and got a free ride back into the higher day. And I do agree that this is a very high candidate of mean reversion if the stock keeps going higher, higher and higher for the next 2, 3 days. But looking for like a straight up mean reversion just because it went up Friday, tomorrow might be like, just opening up yourself for some real risk because there is an event happening. There is a big NVIDIA quantum computing event happening.
Yeah, there's a few events. There's the NVIDIA AI event where I think there's a section they're supposedly going to talk about quantum, and then there's also the like a 2-day event. I put it in my DRC. I forget exact what it is, but it's like a Roth conference or something. I don't know. I think if this thing gaps up and like has some kind of setup to around 11, I think it's worthy. But yeah, I can also see this thing holding up to the end of the event. Ways I would be looking at is like, opening range breakout is like one way I would join. It's like if there's a gap up, that kind of takes away some of my FOMO, like to be being early because I can like use that or orb setup. I can use the FLS setup. Or I can use like
There's
a
like a
hitchhiker.
basket that I'm creating for these sectors. So like LAES is probably one that you can keep an eye out for a long. It's like holding off the 200-day moving average, how it had a failed low of the bouncy ball on the intraday. QBTS is probably one for the short side. IonQ is for the long side. It's also bouncing from the 200-day moving average. RGTI is probably in the same basket as QBTS. The higher this one goes, the more I want to short it. So if you are looking for the basket name and you want to short it, I would suggest creating one for the long side, one for the short side. That way you're not stuck on the sidelines if the sector is strong. If the sector is strong, you go long IonQ, LAES. If the sector is really strong, but then get like topping out after a gap up tomorrow or Tuesday, then you have an easy pick on QBTS or RGTI.
Looking at this IonQ, this 30 level is interesting. To this gap fill. LAES, that's the name I forgot about. Yeah, that was a good one. This one kind of trades like a low float though. But this is
They're all low flow garbage. Half of them don't even do quantum computing. They just have quantum in the name.
A lot of the Qualmagi guys are long, like QUBT from 2 days ago.
I think I saw what Dan Zanger. I think he was talking about it.
Yeah, I mean they're going to long it just because the probability is going to take it back to 1505 to 1659. This was like one of Christian's 2 trades he took to make him his first 5 million. Waits for something parabolic, then the sell down, the curl back up. He'll take back to that. On QUBT, he'd take it in between like back up to 1550 or 1950, and then turn right back around, and it'll turn right. It'll go right back down. Because like he looks at it on the weekly. So if you look at this, if this was your big extended push up, this push down, it's going to build a flag on, like, let's say the weekly. It'll start building a flag. So it's just going to start getting tighter and tighter. So he tries to predict the bottom of the flag, which would be like if you put QUBT, for example, on the weekly last week. These have all sold off a ton because of the news. But he'll pick that, he'll write it back up, and then Steven Ducks will take the other side, flip, and then short it back down. Your first 2 legs of these patterns are very, very, very predictable. On the legs on the higher time frame, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So then after that next leg, when we come up, they just leave them alone. They won't touch them anymore. So like, you know how Steven Ducks made $12 million on DJT in that week and a half or 2 weeks? That's exactly what he did. So like after your big push down, it should curl and then come back and retest the bag holder area. So they'll take the swing short. They'll take the swing short from the top. Lucas will hold it for 2 days. Steven Ducks will hold it for 4. Then both of them on that push down will flip and go long and hold it for a swing back up. So you can miss the short or the long side on either of these, but still play them. Because those are the first couple legs on the daily are really predictable. If you go look at DJT and how DJT did coming into the election, the daily will look. Yeah, so look at you see how DJT did that? They take down for so the initial top, you're going to have down for 3 to 5 days, right? So 1, 2, 3, that bar, they all buy all over again. They write it up for 2 days. And then they flip down and you go down for another 3 to 5. They go on time frames. Like Steven will hold for time. So it's either 4 or 5 days, 4 to 5 days. Lucas is a lot more off of the levels, but they trade them both ways. They'll take the initial capitulation. They hold it for 3 to 5, right? Until it retests essentially the breakout. They get out, they wait for a green bar. They buy the close of that green bar and they ride it right back up to the bag holder area. And at that bag holder area, they're selling into it and then they flip and take it down for another 3 days. But you look at any of these stocks that go berserk. Well, you can look at MSTR. MSTR did it. You can look at Tesla. It's just an overall pattern. If you swing trade, that will just do itself over and over and over again.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so like real quick, go look at Tesla. You'll see it. You'll see once you see the pattern. Look, so you see your 3 to 5 days. You see that push up then? Now count to 3 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's like the most repeatable. I have a compilation video I can send you, but like Christian talks about being the most repeatable, predictable pattern in a market. So you have different participants, but they're all in the exact same situation over and over again.
Nice. Yeah, if you can send that to me, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
The last thing I had on this list was just the QBTS 10 breakout that happens right here. Anyone want to see this, or we all good?
No, yeah, go for it.
Okay. All right. So I believe Andrew, you mentioned you leaned against the short. I think it makes sense, and you catch like a little bit, just because the structural edge. Like if you see it, you can risk tight. I did take this one. I took this on a buy stop through 10. I got filled at 10:01. So here it is. And then it's just over. So this one instantly shows it jumped up like 8, but liquidity in this is, I think, really good. So I think, did anyone else take that 10 breakout?
I did.
I might have. I think I may have taken like 10 or 20 cents out of it. Just end
Do
of
you
the
guys
day.
remember where you got filled, and did you enter on a buy stop?
I entered on a buy stop. I got filled within like a penny, 2 pennies.
Nice. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, that is just one of those that just pops up and I hit out real quick. Like it's end of day. I was, what I was waiting for was to see if it was going to do anything after hours. But one thing I will say is our read on this, there were a ton of people, both in my group, like that small cap group that I was invited to. There's a ton of people that played that same breakout you were talking about early in the morning. And then if you go look at like Kyle Williams, I believe Eternal Envy, all those guys, the exact area we shorted, they shorted as well, just because of the probability of it. And they all covered, their huge majority of it back at VWAP. And then they left it alone just the rest of the day after that as well.
I think this is the one towards the end of the day where we're all doing that little tape lesson as well with that 10:01 and 10 held ask, and then you guys took it off real quick to avoid something like a CRVO, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. You just go and like you're just playing. I mean, when you're playing a lot of these, it's not I'm gonna trail this with your previous 2-minute bar high. A lot of it is you get your big pop, and if it's a good pop, I just peel off into them. Think of it like this: in like the large cap world, you can get the real quick, your real quick orderly plays out of them. With these, it's more probability. So you think in terms a lot more big money shorts these. So when they come to curl back up, the pop you're going to get out of it is so much higher probability. So if you're looking on the 2-minute 4 bars ago, if this was going to continue to break down, it would break down right there.
Gotcha.
Those 4 bars that are buy bars, it's most likely really not people buying the stock. It's all the shorts piling back out. Because you also have to think in these, a lot of the big money intraday, not like, you're holding for longer periods of time. The small money is on the long side, whereas the big money is on the short side.
Gotcha.
So when I took this 10:01 buy stop, and literally as soon as it filled, I hit enter to risk versus 997, and then I basically took off 50% on that, like 10 seconds later on the initial push into 10:10. And so for me, that's a 2-to-1 on the initial risk, and then I raised my stop just to under 10 for everything else, and then just literally just trimmed out into close. I think a little bit of a signal was kind of the action off 10:20, like higher high, and then just like there's like no time left in the day, so I got flat at like 10:18. But I think the high probability portion is just that you're just going to get a push off that level, at least 10-20 cents. It's probably what you're thinking. But if it breaks and then immediately gets back under 10, I want no part of it, because that's when all of a sudden maybe like if you open yourself up to holding past it getting below 10, then okay, well, what about 990? What about 980? What about 950? Like, I'm just going to be really quick with literally as soon as I get filled, I got my full stop in.
Well, that and the other thing is like with these tracking float, and float is huge. So like, anything with 50 to 100 million float, your probabilities, like, like you look at this is like 10% away from VWAP. And the 50 to 100 million float, 25% is right about what these things usually will do in a day, right? So then if you're in the 25 million float, 100 to 150% move is, 25 to 50 million float, you can expect right in between a 50 to 100% move a day. And 10 million or under is where you can get the 400 to 800% moves in a day. So a lot of that, like the mean reversion stuff with the algorithms that they run, there's a couple guys that I trade with that trade algos based, and like they were running algos on Friday on QBTS. So like their algos don't turn on until right around like I think 23% based off of market cap or based off of float size. So with these, you can read a lot more on the float size of what you can expect them to do. So just for what you can expect. So tomorrow, let's say this thing's going to go ape shit up. You plan on in between like 25. I'd say the thing probably shouldn't move more than 25 to 40% in a day. Just a heads up, like if you're trading it long.
Right. I would point out, so RSI in the daily, it's only, I thought it'd be higher. It's only 72.6. So, okay, yes, if this thing gaps up and is opening at 11, I am going to be looking at, I would probably grade it as a B exhaustion gap. Maybe B plus based on like a change in, based off intraday. But there's a world where, it holds up over 11, it squeezes over 1150, it closes at like 1350. The next day, maybe it gaps down and runs, and then it closes at like 15, 16, 17 or something like that. And then basically into the end of this event, that it's like around 20 or something like that. And like, that's where, it'd go from being like a B to B plus to like A to A minus. And then, like if the event, it's into the end of the event and it's also, our size like over 90 or something, and it's around 20, like that's where I'd be thinking it's like an A plus. So I think that the thing on these that I sometimes get in trouble on is being a day early and then being too hesitant to trade them the next day. So, if I do take it, I'm keeping that in mind to where I want to leave enough room where mentally I'm going to be still able to catch if it happens a different day. And if it ends up happening, Monday or Tuesday, that I'm there to catch something on it.
Well, that and the nice thing, like you on these, you don't have to predict like the pattern when it shows up, it's going to look the exact same. Like on QBTS Friday, until that second leg, we didn't even look at it for a short. I was like, wouldn't even consider it, right?
Yep.
And so that's the nice thing is like if it were to show up tomorrow, you don't really have to like predict. It will show you what it's going to do. Like tomorrow, if this doesn't gap up, it's really not much it's not really huge on my priority list because it can still go sideways while the others in the sector catch up.
For sure.
I wanted to point out that the other leg one runs on the, I kind of been measuring them. They were like 30 to 45 days on the RGTI and all the rest of the stocks. So these things could maybe support a second leg longer than you think, which would be more like what Brad was saying. So the first leg on QBTS was about, I measured it from the bottom up, is about 500%. And, this one has a good ways to go. It would get you all the way up to like 30, which would be a huge move, but no.
Yeah. And
check the short float too. So RGTI 22.5% short float. and there is 270 million shares out there. So that's like 55 million shares are short. And average volume is 138. So, that's also something too, where, starts to get going, it lures in some more. So, which is why it's nice to have people like Pratt on the call here to be like, hey, what about some of these other names, and to be looking at it both ways instead of just like, you can get super zoomed in, be like, oh, it's for sure short, and then you just get your butt completely kicked, and then it sets up on Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday or something, and you're just like not in the mental space to catch it. So I think that's why it's good. It's nice to have different highlights of opinion on it.
Oh, completely agree. And here's the biggest thing. Like when it comes to these, one thing I'm really learning is like, I don't have an opinion. Like tomorrow, if any trade were to present itself, not having an opinion on it is huge. Like I don't really trade the opinion. I just trade the pattern. Like it's so clean when they do develop pre-market, and it's so clean intraday how they're going to respond that like you can't not trade them. You know what I mean? But that's the problem, is there's a ton of people that look at this and they're like, oh, tomorrow is the day this thing is going to die. No, this thing can still go up another 100%. But as long as, you don't trade with your opinion, you trade with what you're seeing, I think a person's, fine. And you made a good comment too. There's some really big money short in these right now. So
Yeah.
They can definitely make their way back to kind of bite them in the ass before they die as well.
For instance, this is SMCI on February 15th. This is the day before it topped out. And as you can see, previous day was a gap up. On this day, it's also a gap up. So, not as good here because it's this inside day and then this, but this one was a pretty good candidate of a potential exhaustion gap. So many days up, previous day gap and go, and then this also another gap.
Will you play that day?
Sorry, go ahead.
Will you play that day just intraday? Like, can you go real quick and zoom out just a bit so we can see the pre-market?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to highlight a moment here because this one got me. So here's pre-market. Pre-market opens, flushes down, reclaims, gaps up higher.
Mm-hmm.
And right here, this is the spot where I was like, okay, this is absolutely it. And I risked my whole downside on this basically. But this downside lockout, daily max risk, whatever you want to call it. But the stuff of highs, I thought this was a really good signal.
Where did you enter on this trade?
I will show you. I'll relive this one for you guys. That's all right. All right. Here we go. So it's going to happen on this candle here. So it's going to be 1 minute, and I'll just line her in.
I remember this stock was so dysfunctional.
Okay, now back through 960. I'm just going to hit it. Oops, I'm going to hit it early. So just be against, if I did that, I'd be against highs. But I basically end up, I think I hit a 960 sell stop just to get back in case it like failed breakouted. So also might not be the best tape for this one. But basically, I think at this point, I'm like, okay, I guess it's not the day it's gonna.
I remember playing this SMCI on both days. I attempted it on day one that we're looking at here, and I would have hit it on the the SMB's gap pick and roll setup where the first moves up, smaller consolidation starts breaking below the EMA. That's where I played it, and then I got stopped out on the reclaim or VWAP, and then I see the higher low. At that point, it's like price actions indicating something else, and after that, I kind of left it alone. But I came back.
I hit it right here. Yeah, right there. So I believe I hit it right around there just against highs. Sorry to interrupt you. It was just the moment. And I don't think I took anything. I was just like, oh, it's probably going to go, reclose that previous day. and I just had to stop a high. And then, at this point, your confidence level on this is pretty high. It's just like, okay, gap up, breakout, instant reversal. This is pretty much where
that's aggressive too.
Because for me to get, short here, I would like to see a consolidation somewhere around the low of the day.
Right. Yeah, the other thing too is this opening range, like initial break, a little bit of move up, that's good. And then a re-breakdown, you'd want more follow through, this like reclaim and then push new highs. Looking back, it's a little, I guess on the choppier end.
And the next day did the exact same thing, push higher, gap pick and roll right into pre-market highs, and then flushed and put in new lows. Similar opening price action, but completely different result.
Can you do me a favor? When you get done with this part real quick, okay, so we see this. Is there any way you can go to the next day when it does fail?
Yeah, I can do that.
This chart I've reviewed 100 times. This stock acted very, very unlike how they normally will act. This stock was Avgo is the same way. Avgo was nuts.
Don't know if this got me stopped yet. I think it did. I was probably the high ticket here getting stopped out. Views.
Yeah, this stock was incredibly strong.
Yeah, and then just like holds up. Trying to get to where. Okay, yeah, so it must have been 11:27. Just trying to make sure I get out of.
I had one of my neighbors when it was like halfway up. He's like, "Yeah, I bought some." I was like, "All right, well." And I'm sitting there thinking like, this guy's gonna get burnt. Now I'm like, goes double. It gives him a double in the matter of like a week.
Yeah, so looking on this chart here, this lower low through VWAP and then reclaim and then higher high, I should have probably been out 955 here. If I'm not, there it is, even though I know what happens, let's still hit. So that went flat on this account. Okay, sweet. Yeah, so I guess hindsight, this like lower low and then reclaim of this range here, like on this lower low, I think I can trail against this. And so I probably should have been out there. And I probably should have not lost too much money on this. But that is
yeah, but then again, after you see a $30 or a $40 candle, it's you're not thinking in your head like, oh, this thing's going to go reclaim the highs.
MSTR did the exact same thing the day before the actual unwind. It kind of broke the lows, reclaimed VWAP, put in a kind of I think a mini failed follow through, and then reclaimed VWAP again, and then had a small dump at the end of the day before gapping up the next day. So very similar price action to SMCI.
Yeah. So this gets people in. This gets people in, this gets people in, this gets people in, and this just grinds and squeezes them out literally all day. And it closes on highs, and then resetting up. So I'll move on to the next thing you can see, I can see the difference. So I guess in regards to prep wise, I think it's a good to see, some of these signals and then what it's looking like when it's not working. Okay. Something interesting in pre-market, I believe a bunch of the like NVIDIA and things like that got upgrades, and then this maintained. That was one pre-market news thing that happened on this day. So it's playing off the open. Just go to key moments, and then I think I gotta bounce after this. All right, so now we got another gap up. So potential exhaustion day, potential exhaustion day, potential exhaustion day. So just, when these things have shorts behind them and they're, running, it's hard because it does become a better day if it gaps up the next day too. So that's my going away take point with this. Is there any particular part of this you want to see? I've seen this tape a lot. Do you want to see the lower low?
Probably on the
just wherever it fails. Yeah.
When it starts, the rollover.
Okay.
think about 8 or 10 minutes in.
Yeah, I think it's by like 9:45.
And can you zoom out on that one just a bit?
Yeah, just a couple of minutes before that. Just when you start seeing that first push higher and then fail, the next bearish engulfing, just a couple of minutes before that.
Okay, so at this point, it's gap up, first move down. First move down, I think, is very likely to have a push up. So to push up, and then I think the first signal I see here is.
Can you zoom out of that 2-minute chart just a bit? Yep, there we go.
Yeah, it's just a little messy, but there we go.
It failed the pre-market high, didn't it?
Yep.
It failed the pre-market high and also failed intraday new high.
Yeah.
Right.
Intraday new high and push down. So you can go to that if you want to see.
No, that's all I wanted to see.
Okay.
So then it goes below the opening print and should hold below the opening print, right? Probably retests it. We'll see, I guess, here in a minute.
Yeah, so I'll wait. All right. Okay, so it should happen. Okay, there we go. So this way it happens within a minute. So, okay, now it's after 9:45, so it is setting up as a opening range breakdown. What makes this better is how extended it is on the daily. If there's no gap, this is a shit opening range breakdown. If there's a big gap and a lot of room, it's much better. My default stop for this, the 2-minute high or a 5-minute high or a 1-minute, anything along those lines, I think is fine. And then we'll just see what it looks like when it actually breaks.
Probably you can take a starter once it starts breaking, revap again, and then probably add on the opening range break.
Yeah, so for me, FLS, like opening drive FLS is just literally a 1-minute close below VWAP, which gets me in right on this candle here at 1050.
Stop right above it, yep.
On that, I'm probably C+ risk if it's tighter, or on B- risk if it's for size. And so, okay, what's the level? Level is 1024. So hit. Okay, risking what, 30 points? 30 points initially, and then this is what you would want to be seeing it do. And then basically after this 2-minute close, I'm against, 1030.
I think this one is one of the cleaner 2-minute bar trails. It basically takes you right at the bottom, helps you get out right at the bottom.
That, and I can give the couple of nuances from probably the 1,000 hours I've done studying these of what makes these successful.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay, first, number one, you're going to have pre-market high put in. That pre-market high, you're going to start to see the rollover coming into pre-market. 90% of these that fail are going to have selling 15 minutes before the open. Okay, 50 to 60% of those are going to test the pre-market high. 1 in maybe 20 of them will break the pre-market high and still work. If not, it's going to be an hour and a half in the day they'll even consider trading it. But if you have selling coming into the pre-market and then a retest of the pre-market high and the high fails, your chance of that trade working goes up ridiculously. And like, notice how I asked you to zoom out on the last one, which you're going to notice on SMCI is 2 things. And same thing on the day MSTR kept working where everyone got their ass kicked. I traded the last hour of the day on that push up, but I left it alone because there's buying coming into the open. You don't want buying. You're going to notice that there's going to be selling coming into the open, and they protect the pre-market high. So on MSTR, both those things that I saw that kept me out of that the day before happened. There was buying 20 minutes in the open, and the pre-market high was broken pretty quickly. The 2 nuances of this trade that always happen over and over again is you get selling like 20 minutes into the open or 20 minutes before the open. And then the other thing is they protect that pre-market high. A lot of times they go, and this one's not the case, but a lot of times then what you'll do is you just top down. Okay, boom. Does pre-market high fail? Yes. Does opening print fail? Yes. Is there a retest of the opening print? Once that retest of the opening print fails, add more. Should get your leg down, consolidation, bounce, and then your second leg is much more predictable than the first leg as well. So like if you go back and study MSTR, DJT, all these stocks on the days they do fail, Tesla went up, and you leave it alone. If it doesn't give you those two things, don't touch it the first hour and a half of the day.
I like that variable of selling 15 minutes before and then a failure below pre-market highs.
The two of them, like on the days that they do fail, it's just religious. Like those are the two keys you look for. So it's real weird, but it's the 15 minutes before. So like MSTR and SMCI, if you go and you start watching the 15 minutes before the opening, you'll start noticing there's buying in the stock.
That's the same selling takes place in NVIDIA as well. I think on what is this, last year, June, July timeframe when that capitulation happened, and then it took place in Tesla as well. And then I have another example in DJT on 1029, the exact same thing, sells 15 minutes prior. Palantir on 12/9/24 sells 15 minutes prior.
Well, basically all I did was I took Maya's, Lucas's, the charts I could find with Lance trading these. You see, those are the key areas they're shorting against. And so I'm like, why are they shorting and covering here and how they're doing it? And you're going to notice the pattern of the days are actually active on the stocks. Those are the two common nuances that I don't think they really share, but those are the two common nuances I noticed on all their execution charts. And I know like a lot of people don't share their edge, but if you go and you go back and study like Lucas's charts, Maya's charts, Top Bear, all those guys, it's what you're going to start noticing they all have in common. They're really, really active in these charts on the day that those two have in common. So it's not me like studying those charts I found, it was studying their execution charts. And for some reason, like Lucas, when he posts, he's like, everyone got hit, he posted that with MSTR. He's like, everyone got hit by MSTR yesterday. A couple of my key variables weren't hit for me to trade it. Well, those are what I've come to the conclusion are the key variables.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That's definitely helpful.
Yeah, I don't know.
All those guys, this is in their playbook as big opportunities. So it's good.
So I don't know if that, a lot of people don't want to go that finite on things, but that's the two things that I'm always watching. And so then a lot of times what you're going to have is don't ever trade the first flush down. If your first push, like you said, is the first flush down, I know there's a over 70% chance that the first push down is made because I've gotten hit on this. We're like sweated a couple times. You're going to have a retest of the opening print. So like MSTR did it, DJT did it. They all will do it. So you're going to have your best opportunity comes the flush, then that first push up kind of into the pre-market high fails. Then you go on the opening print. The opening print will fail. A lot of times with those, that's fine. But your only other option is once they go, you have your top put in. It doesn't even necessarily push up to the opening print, but you're usually going to go sideways for about 2 to 14, 16 minutes. Then after that, you get the push down. But whatever you do, that first push down, you get off the open, don't short it. Because the bar's move is usually pretty big, so your risk is high. But you sweat yourself over and over and over again on that trade because it's going to come back and test the opening print. So the best thing a person, in my opinion, can do if you really do get interest on it off that is wait for the retest, the opening print, put your failure or wait for the failure and then just risk the wick of that bar.
I mean, Andrew, another point to add to this, I think you and I have discussed this as well. I mean, just like we were looking at SMCI the day before where it reclaimed VWAP, put in a higher low. Typically, I mean, there's nothing wrong in giving it an attempt on the first gap up day as well, like we were trying over there. But what I've noticed in Tesla from 12/18/24 and NVIDIA on 12/30/24, They both did the same thing, put in new highs of the day, trended higher, but then eventually had a late day fade as well, where they kind of break under VWAP, have a mini consolidation, and then have the unwind towards the last, hour or so of the day. That's something
100%.
as well.
Yeah, and so you can always miss. Like, if a person wants to be sure and just miss their being early, wait for the first leg to be put in, then wait for it to go sideways, right? And then once it goes sideways, you're always going to get the second leg.
Prad just highlighted a good one to review really quick before we call this last one. So you just mentioned this GM. So here's some spots he's pointing out, and then we'll look at the tape for them. So I guess first we'll look at like maybe spot 1, and then let's go spot 2, and then 3 and 4 and 5. Yeah, these are all good spots.
Real quick, Anthony, check this out, okay? I said the pre-market. Oh,
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go back to that picture one more time. Okay, you see one in between 1 and 2 where he has?
Yep.
You see the flush down, right?
Yep.
Ideal entry, though, in between 1 and 2 is where I hit it. Look,
gotcha.
the retest of the opening print, kill it. Like, just murder that retest of that opening print up there.
Yep.
So you get the failure. Now I said like 60% of the time they go and retest that opening print. There's your retest. Now I said the bar is always bigger than it should be. That's your bar before it. Right where 1 is. Yep. So your retest on those is crucial. It doesn't have to be right to the tick. It's just going to be a big push down. You're going to get longs suckered in. And then once the longs are suckered in, you can take that through and just use a really, really small stop on it.
Nice. Sweet. Okay, so we'll go open. This looks like it happens a little bit after open. Pride, was there news on this day? Was this like
Yeah,
the
so Trump tariff news, I think something about metal, steels, and cars, and one of my coworkers, co-traders called out that the tax would be on like cars, Canada, metal. So I instantly pulled up GM and I saw the initial flush that Andrew was talking about, and then waited for the pop, and I shorted the pop, and I pretty much got the move all the way to low a day. But I hesitated on the capitulation long and on the backside scalp too. So that's the 3 and the 4 that I marked in the chart.
Sweet. Okay, this is on the 2
Can you go
minute.
back to that chart real quick on the 3 and the 4? I just want to see it so I can get the mental rep in.
Yep.
So 1 is the new smooth, 2, or you can even say opening range breakout. So 1 is the new smooth. Before that is actually the new smooth. You get a move up and then a move down, taking out the opening range high, taking out the opening range low. Then you get a bounce from yesterday's close, and the 200 simple moving average on the 2 minute, right back into today's open. Actually, yeah, so right back into today's. Actually, no, that's a bounce from yesterday's VWAP. So bouncing from yesterday's VWAP close, right back into today's open, and then a break of again the opening range low, and then a fucking flush right off the bat.
That's a beautiful trade. You hit that at like the perfect area.
Yeah, so I started a little bit on the front side and the back side right as the previous candle low broke on the 2 minute. That's when I maxed out my size, I guess.
Which one on number 2?
Yeah.
Such a good
That's
entry.
that's the spot I love. I think, yeah, this spot right here, my cursor is this 2 minute bar low.
Mm-hmm.
That's for me the money right side of the V spot. So hearing that Pratt hit that makes me happy.
Yeah, that is beautiful execution on your chart or on your point. Where did you take off on this spread?
I basically got out on the bottom where the volume candles came in. So number 3 is where I got out, but I should have flipped long. So I want to see the tape at number 3, see if like bids started stacking.
Oh, wow.
And I want to see why like I didn't take that long. I mean, I was a bitch.
That's perfect.
That volume is beautiful too.
Here, I'll post my chart. It's if Anthony, if you want to open that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful trade, brother.
Oh man, that's a killer.
Yep, that's a good one.
See, this is why we need Proud in here.
I see the
It's a-
bottom, like the tape of the capitulation, because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, Brad, the only thing I will say, so your ads are incredible, right? When that last bar gets taken out right there, you said you have max size on. Okay, if you didn't have max
Not
size on there,
really. It's just like,
if you
max
didn't
for
have
me
max
mentally.
size on there, right? That break right there just absolutely just killed the thing at that point. It's just dead.
Sweet. All right, I'm gonna play this. I'll play it quickly through your
Yeah, then
entries.
I gotta go,
I want
guys.
to see an entry, and then I'll go and I'll play the exhaustion, capitulatory move. Yeah, it's pretty good volume on that. And then is there a back? There's not a really good clean. There's not a clean backside scalp in my opinion on this one. I guess maybe this spot.
On the 2
but
minute, you kind of see it better. If you go back to the first picture that I posted, so on the 2 minute, you maybe see the backside a lot better. So go to that one, and then you see how there's a higher low, higher high, and there's
Yeah, right
like
there.
a nice little white
Yeah.
line. So that
Second
is a
chance.
backside,
Yeah.
and then that's a second chance. Yeah.
Nice.
And then if you want, you can also kind of throw in a FLS all the way to the right side, a little bit more to the right
right here.
there.
Yep.
And the stock actually just fucking rips through the rest of the day too.
Sweet. Yeah. Let's run through all those spots. The
Hey,
news,
what time?
the orb.
What time
Yeah.
does that thing finally rip? Is that the last 2 hours of the day?
Yeah, you can see the picture and the image, everything.
Okay, there's the time, 13:30. Yeah. Okay, just making sure on the time.
And if any of you guys want to pull this up again, it's Trad posted this in my journal area.
Maybe if you create a channel for like Zoom calls, and then we can post charts and stuff in there while we're reviewing too.
That'd be good. And then on this review of this, we can also hyperlink to moments in time where tickers are talked about. So if we make a weekend meeting one, we can put like Tesla, this date, this time, here's the link where that starts. And we can just do that for all the ones we ran through. Because we ran through a lot of pretty good, easy money setups, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it helps me out a ton because you guys trade a lot differently than I do. And I feel like I'm picking it up and learning a lot quicker than I do whenever I try to do things on my own, like a lot quicker. Yeah, I want to see this. Brad, I know this tape kind of looks a little bit, it always looks slightly different. When you were in the trade, was it just heavy, like really heavy feeling?
Honestly, I don't remember watching the tape. I think I was just trading the chart.
Okay, 10, here we go. All right, I'm going to play this initial part at least at 1x. Do we need to, you guys all good on this?
Yeah, definitely. I want to see this.
All right, here's the daily chart of the time. Daily chart of the time, it's just not really doing anything super exciting, but it is kind of tight on the daily is what I would note. A little bit of a wedge, I guess, if you were to draw it in. That's all I think is key with that. I just like to, so when I do these highlight reels, I like to look daily and then just zoom in. And that way I just get the rep in of how I'm going to see in real time. Because in real time, I'm going to first look at the weekly, daily, hourly, 30-minute, 15-minute, 10-minute, 5-minute, 2-minute, 1 minute, and then tape. And so I try to get the same rep. That way I'm just a little quicker. All right, I'm going to play this at 1x. There we go. Yeah, tariff news. He said he was going to do 50% instead of 25, and later on that gets changed back to 25 on steel from Canada.
Yeah, Keith had great long in TQQ that day. And then Trump came out with the news.
Oh, F11, almost forgot.
Was the news already out at this point?
Came out with it this time. I'll look that up. Someone want to check to see what time that news actually came out? Do it on the side screen here. What day is this? This is the 11th. So here's the algos getting caught off sides on keywords. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's no bueno. That's high day stuff.
Sorry, my
All right.
dad came in. What's up?
Yeah, and from my experience trading these, what's it called? Trading these bigger, like between Ford, GM, these things move terrible intraday.
Yeah, this is a terrible, disgusting move. I mean, I would maybe take that in a failed breakout, but with the news and the spike, I guess if I inferred that the news is negative and then I was looking for a way in, the failed breakout's the first potential spot, but it's not really like money spot yet. I'm
No,
playing
but
a little bit quicker through here.
yeah, no, I think that's like perfect. You have tariff news on steel, like this is like the perfect place to go. That and the one I've been watching, I haven't traded it yet, but anytime there's tariff news, the ticker X seems to move pretty well.
Yeah. US Steel.
Yeah.
Playing this at a 5x just to get to Prad's money spot. That way we can see his capitulation.
5x is still.
Yeah, just trying to get to the key spot. Otherwise, it's going to take 20 minutes to get
So
through.
this is where I actually start getting in, kind of.
All right, we'll go to a 2x. All right, so this is like opening print retest that we were talking about, right? So opening print looks like it's like 47.93. Let's call it 48. So that's going into retesting VWAP, however you want to pronounce it.
Hey, I just want to let you guys know one thing. According to Dan Shapiro, VWAP is horseshit. Y'all know why? Because retail uses VWAP, therefore it's worthless. I'm serious.
Oh, him and Brian Shannon should talk.
No, I'm not joking you. Like, I didn't use VWAP for years. I believed it. I'm like, wait, the one line I want on my chart, the one line is the one line you don't believe in? Okay.
So that's the 2-minute bar break there.
Couldn't held 48. So I would probably. Oh. And below 47.80 is the next location where I'm now trailing against the high. the hive that leaked through VWAP.
Brad, how are you choosing to trail this? That's what I'm curious about. Or like your profits. What was did you have a plan on that one up front, or once you saw it really unwinding, did you change how you were managing it?
I just traded PNL for the most part because I think I was down on the day already. But that's not something new. I do that always
I
anyways,
love
so it
how
doesn't matter.
honest you are.
And then after I covered most of my shares in shitty spots, the last few shares I had, I think I trailed it on the 5-minute bar high. Well,
Dude.
ideally, what I would like to do is 5-minute bar highs. If it's really extended, like this one gets, then like 2-minute bar highs for a little bit, then 5-minute bar highs for a little bit more, then 9 EMA on the 5-minute, and then 21 EMA. I'm done by the time it starts to get above and firm above 21 EMA on the 5-minute. So like that's like my 25%, 25%, 25%, 25.
I'm the definition of a mental midget when it comes to trading. So like, I'm not joking. Try pulling your P&L just for a week and watch what it does. Dude, it's awesome. I'm the same way. If I'm down,
P&L.
If I was down for the day, oh yeah, like every position I trade then has to do with my P&L. So like now I'm at point, I don't check my P&L all week. Like I don't want to know.
I try not to do it these days. It's still pretty hard. I still peek. I still give it a little peek.
But dude, I purposely, like,
Yeah.
Dwayne's been around me long enough. I'm terrible when I can't look at my P&L.
I've been covering it with the chart these days. Getting
I have
better.
mine the furthest left corner of my screen, so I have to like turn my head a lot.
Yeah, I have
put some tape over it.
I have some position. I cover it with my position summary, so I can't see mine at all anymore.
On this tape, I've now put through a 10x after it's gone below 47.50, and then that acts as resistance, and then it makes the next lower low. I think that's the spot where if I'm in this, I'm kind of like autopilot, like I'm trying to not be as zoomed into the tape. So that's why I've fast forwarded from that point in time. I think I might need to skip ahead a little bit of time because this looks like a trend for how long? Like 20 minutes from here at least.
Wow.
Do me a favor, just keep it right around here just for a minute for me, if you could. I just want to see how, once we get to these lows, when this thing.
10:30, I think it bottoms out.
Here is where it starts getting really heavy again. You know, one thing I'm really learning to watch on the tape, and especially the time and sales, is like you get these pushes down. And it's like they sit and they like breathe for a minute where like there's not any strong buying coming in, but the tape just like slows down, and then you get your next wave. And then it slows down. I'm especially noticing that now around turns. Like you have a turn come in like we saw on QBTS. I know you're probably pretty good with this, but like you see that turn come in and it's not like the stock's going up or down anymore, but the chart, it just like dies in terms of activity, right? And then right as it dies, then you start getting your next push.
I'm slowing this back down once we get 35. All right, now slowed this back down for the next minute or so. I think this is kind of getting into the key spot.
How would you guys be trading this next one? Just moving your stop down one bar at a time?
Yeah, pretty much.
Large caps, I'm trailing on a 5-minute by default.
So you're going on a 5-minute then, okay.
And you know, if it starts to pull away from the moving averages, that's a reason for me to be piecing out.
I was gonna say, if it's you're not using a stop like that once this thing like really starts pulling away, are you? You'll sell into the major push down, right?
Yeah, with the idea of dynamic EV. Just do I want to keep giving this, 50, 70 cents a risk, or do I think this is a spot? All right, so it should be. Yeah, it should be coming in this next minute. Yeah, Fred, I think this next minute is where there's going to be a bit of a turn with the volume.
Yeah.
So we are at 1x because of that. Yeah, I don't want to crash this program, so I'm not going to be trimming out how I probably would be. Yeah, like if I see this, I mean, I probably have a 46-26 buy stop for at least half.
Yep.
Just saying, okay, I'll give this 8 cents of risk, to give it a chance to prove itself. Just based off how it's kind of forming on the 5 minute here, and it's how it's kind of extended too. It's like I don't want to just arbitrarily give another 70 cents.
Yeah, I don't blame you there one bit, because that's something I really try to get better at now, because I'm the opposite. I overstay my welcome at this point. So really trying, when we start getting that separation, instead of letting the thing bounce, like where is over the long run a good place to take your profits?
Yeah, so what I've been working on is, instead of the action being me to hit a hotkey and just peace out, the action for me to take is to just put some buy stops in for, if short, buy stops in on portions of my position size. So at least like half, a quarter, whatever it might be. Instead of the action being I just cover here and it flushes and keeps going that way, it's like I'm taking if then action instead of a just a little bit of a FOMO or a greed type action.
I agree.
Because at the same time, like maybe it cracks 46 and it goes down to 45. And so, if I'm risking 30 cents for maybe an extra dollar.
Well, I like that idea of going to the 5 minute, because I've noticed that on the 2 minute, there's a lot of times I get wicked out real quickly on them.
Yeah. I would note this is some volume here on a 2 minute. There's some volume on this 2 minute in front of that 46.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something where I'm like, oh, that's capitulatory volume for sure. But on the 5 minute, I think this is a good spot. It's like, it's like after this little push down, it's getting towards the end of the candle. In a minute and a half, my stop would be above it. But right now, it's like if it gets above it, there's probably a chance it runs to like 46.50, and then all of a sudden it's like kind of different. So I think that's a reasonable decision.
Yeah, I think the way that 5 minute, especially on something like this, is a really good. I need to really start paying more attention to that one.
Yeah, 5 minute for large caps is, I think, a good rule of thumb.
Well, especially like in a situation like this where you have a new 5 minute bar enter or open.
I think 46 on the daily was a low end of the range as well.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything that screams to me capitulation on this. I would
So
say
that volume candle was bullshit, is what I'm basically seeing, because your program doesn't see it.
Yeah.
Good, I didn't miss anything on the one, but it was a fucking good one.
I think you could call it a rubber band. I mean, in 8 seconds, and it's a new candle. I think through that 5 minute high is decent for like a rubber band entry against lows. Yeah, so it's valid right now, and it triggers immediately. Okay. So, I mean, I guess for 25 cents of risk, and VWAP is $1 away. So, I mean, I think if, it's like, okay, this is maybe like a 3-to-1, 4-to-1, and it's 25 cents of risk. And this 5 minute does have some increase in volume. Yeah, this program is not showing exactly what we'd be seeing on a recorded tape.
Can you guys check on center point or something with the volume candle is there on your charts?
I would have to go to the hourly.
I can show on Trading View.
So my trading view shows that it has it.
So my trading view, I see highlighted on this one, 1036.
Okay.
Give me a minute, I can check think or crap as well.
I candle.
Think or crap. Yeah.
Thinker crap.
Yeah. Not amazing. Oops. Yeah. This one. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
this
like
one,
a
this
little
is
bit
harder
increase.
for the rubber band side. This is harder for me.
Yeah.
Really see.
Yeah, I think maybe C plus risk is probably what I would be thinking. Just do, and again, this next week I'm trying to not take C plus trades. I'm trying to just take B minus or better. But I'd say C plus just because it is extended. This 5-minute candle, consecutive candles down, and then this 5-minute candle to me is interesting. But at the same time, too, it's like I wouldn't be surprised for it to take 46 and accelerate either. But
No,
just
I
due to
completely agree.
was there another moment in here that was worth reviewing? It looks like maybe 1043. Should be pretty close. Yeah. I'll play
Yeah, I just
real
posted
quick.
the Thinkorswim chart. There's barely any volume on the capitulation. When you zoom out,
Yeah, so it might just be like a trading view bug, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I can see completely why you didn't take the rubber band on this one. Just because of the volume side of this, it'd be really hard for me, especially after those tariff news, seeing one leg flush to think like, this thing very good probability could definitely go take out this low.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump in front of the news either and be like, oh man, like, oh, this is a long because like trading view volume said so, and then just get wiped out on that one.
Well, yeah,
right.
I mean, you really, yes, and exactly what I was gonna say is you really have to look at like the catalyst of new steel. Yeah, it'd be tough to get me to want to jump in front of the bullet on that one.
Plus, he just had a good trade.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No sense in bringing that up.
It's really hard, at least for me, to flip sides, like really hard. If I'm short something like that and you do see it, to just be like, oh, here's my short I just did great on, to flipping like, oh wait, this is a great long now.
Yeah.
Pratt and I had that happen a month or two back. He was all pissed off because he took an awesome trade on MSTR on the way down. At the same exact point he covered, I flipped and took the thing the whole way back up.
4610, there's multiple market makers on it. This is what ends up holding as a higher low. I don't know exactly how clear that is, but for 10 cents of risk, it's okay. It's not something I would say this is a high probability, but it is a high risk reward. That's about the only thing I can say on this one, though. It held again, and then just that little small, like, okay, there's multiple market makers on this level, and it's not underneath. Like maybe I just risk 10 cents. But like I said, again, that's not that's like a 5% of my daily stop risk. It's nothing that's really, and how much am I biased because I know what happens. So yeah, I don't think that's exactly anything to write home about.
That's one thing I'm really coming to look at now that I'm reviewing my trades, is how much of what I'm seeing should I have seen and how much of it is the hindsight.
Right. It's all okay. All of a sudden, I risk what on this $20. We're on the first wave down. It's risking a whole lot more, and on a good B minus, yeah, it'd be a lot more. So I guess if you did the Andrew style is, you're probably piecing out of this or this. But for purposes of this, I'll just, okay, there you go. It's in the view up. I think the FLS is maybe worth looking really briefly on this, which is 1340. Because I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
That's about
Guys,
it.
I'm gonna have to go. I've got to do a few things before dark.
Go for it. Yeah, this
Thank
is
you.
a
See you
longer
later.
and
Have a good day.
All
Have a
right.
good one, man.
I'm going home or I'm leaving in 5 minutes. So
Okay, sweet. Me too.
Have a good evening.
You too. Here is this FLS. Oh, I go too much. All right, so it's about to trigger, I guess, on this one. We'll just see. I'm going to go 2x speed. Okay, so it gets over 47, and then what did bids do? Okay, 47.10, 47.08. 10 is probably. Yeah, I don't know why, but the FLS is just, it's not my favorite midday trade. Like sometimes it looks like it's really clean, but it's something I need to work on. So that's why I wanted to briefly look at this. Like if there's a bigger picture context, I think it makes sense, but okay, I guess at this point, maybe you consider buying through highs.
I'm
Like
running a
this
stop
little,
right there.
yeah, and just stop right there. Just maybe even just 47. So, it's like 11 cents of risk. There's a little bit of pullback on this level. Again, I don't think this is like something I want to like go crazy on, but 15 cents of risk. Then you got the FLS trigger. And then, Brad, do you have any thoughts on this FLS? Is this?
I don't know. I clearly didn't highlight it on my notes, probably because it just took way too long to stay below VWAP. The volume didn't really pick up towards VWAP as FLS wants it to. I had the tariff news, so honestly, I was kind of looking for a VWAP rejection instead of like a VWAP flip. So there was like a bunch of reasons that you can kind of bring in, but if you're playing the setup for as it is, it gave you the risk to reward to kind of take it. Was it in play was kind of the more bigger question. Like it was in play for a little bit when the volume was going on, but then it just instantly kind of I think the one thing that makes FLS on this worth it is the fact that all of this tariff nonsense has just been a flip-flop back and forth. So he goes, I'll raise it. 30 days later, he'll back out, he'll extend it, then he'll talk about raising it in between, and then 30 days later again he'll back out and he'll extend it. So it's just been a whole back and forth shenanigans bullshit. So if you kind of have that as your back pocket trade setup also, then you first catch the initial move of the news and then you catch the reversal. But I don't know how much of that reversal is actually how well is that is a setup, like I can't just bank on that without back testing it, and I don't know how to back test it without like saving all of these charts, so I'll have to like pro data basically.
Right. Yeah, I think the only thing that makes it okay is just the structural risk reward on it. If it was tight consolidation, that's a higher high, where
Gets
risk is
back
maybe
below
15
47,
cents.
you're done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ends up going to
It's to that point, if
49.
you're risking like 5% of what you're willing to lose on the day, but on the other opening range breakdown, you did 15%, or 20%. I think that's reasonable, but I also feel like it's a good way to start giving back money. But
Yeah.
I think
It
that
also
is
just
what it's going to
chop
look like. It's going
sideways
to
and
work.
do nothing.
gets above,
Like I think
gets
there's a
tight,
bigger
breaks.
permutation where it just goes sideways and does nothing too.
Yeah. If it on this, like what's your measured move target? What, so it's 46 to 47, your target's 48.
Yeah, it goes to 49.
All right, well, I'm gonna play this to 48 on almost 10x and then call it a day. But this is kind of what it looks like when it works, where it's like it's tight on that, it pushes away, maybe it pulls back, but it just like holds higher lows and higher highs. That is what it's looking like when it's working. It's like there's no second chance scalp on that FLS. It's like if it comes back through, it's chopping.
So if you're taking FLS, you're going to go to break even pretty decently quick on it, right?
That or just keeping the wrist really tight.
Yeah.
Like, then also daily context. I think the context of the tariff stuff, like maybe if somewhere in between here, there's some news that it's not 25, it's not 50%, it's actually going to be 25, and they're having a meeting later. Maybe within that context of it, of like, okay, it had a big move down on the news, and now there's the other direction of news, and then you get the price action. Maybe that's what makes it a little bit better, but nothing that I absolutely think is insane. Yeah, and then I probably front run this by 10 cents if I see that.
You said you would front run that by about 10 cents?
Based on what I just saw there, I see 93, 94 stepping in the front, and then I see a weak looking bid. I'd probably front run at least a portion. So I would have taken off like a third. The target's 48 and we're 90% of the way there. And I see some kind of resistance in front of it. That's kind of a reason where I'd exit a little earlier. This is in the context of me now knowing it goes to, nearly 49.
And that's what I'm really trying to figure out with my trading now. How much of that is hindsight, right? Like I was kicking my ass when I was in all those names overnight this week, and the risk to reward on the trade ended up being phenomenal. And I was like kicking my own ass. Why didn't I take more size? But then you really have to ask yourself, like, with what you saw at the time, was it worth it? And that's starting to become one of my bigger things I'm trying to focus on, is what's a way I can really start analyzing what I'm doing without having hindsight,
Right. So what we just saw there on 48, okay, I front run some of it, it gets through it, and then I'm just hyper focused. I'm just looking to see if it fails. And in this case, it gets back below and the ask holds at 48. I just out. Like I gave it a chance to start going higher and just make it where I can just trail against that. But all of a sudden it just told me that, it gets through and then sellers step back in. That's my reason to get out. And this is, still knowing what it ends up doing. It's just like, if you're looking at that and that's the turn you want to see, I think that's a reason. That's not too much with the hindsight stuff. It's just like it's a level, it gets above it, sellers step back in as your target area. Okay, I'm just flat.
Are there any times with your trades? Are there any times in your trades where, like, how you said you like predominantly love to scalp? Are there any times where you do look at them and you kind of flip your mentality and you're like, hey, I really, now that I'm seeing the big picture, can see this as a much bigger potential on the trade? And so
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Or I didn't know if, like, once you're in the trade, if you try to really follow what your general thesis was of when you entered.
Yeah. It really depends too. Like if it's a bigger picture exhaustion gap, I'm not, and all of a sudden I get, opening range break. And if I get the move I'm looking for, and then I get the 2 minute or 5 minute higher high, I'm just going to be out, because I got the move I was looking for. If it's still, kind of staying, it's still working, but it hasn't really fulfilled where I think it can go. I'm just going to run the dynamic EV to decide from there. So it's like if it's half the way to target, but all of a sudden it gave me an exit, and now the risk reward's 1-to-1. If it's heavy on the level, and it kind of just wicks through, that might not be enough to get me out. But if it gets above the level and starts to hold above, that might be enough to get me out. But so it just might affect a little bit that way, but that's about it.
Okay.
Here's the GM chart by the end of the day. It's crazy. Yeah, somewhere in there, I guess someone knew something. But Brad, you're talking about the EMA trails. It's on a 5-minute. That's pretty decent on this spot here. Me, my tape-based stuff, you know, and there's a 1-to-1 or there's the FLS target already with the measured move. If I'm watching it and I see this, I'm for sure out. So only way I hold on this on an EMA exit is if I'm not watching the tape. If I'm watching the tape, I'm going to be out.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it's good for me. This is a pretty good little review. Yeah, we can go and just hyperlink in the setups we went over. I think this is all like the easy monies. The one that we didn't cover that I'm not going to get into is the HSAI. I think Brad, you talked about that, and someone else also mentioned that too in chat. And then I also mentioned in my DRCM the day that happened. So I think multiple eyes on that. If you want extra homework, that's a good one to look at.
What was your date on HSAI? I'll go look at that one.
Let me find out.
Yeah, it was last week.
This is the one. No, it's on 311. HSAI.
311.
I did this pre-market.
Oh yeah, I remember
Here it
that
is.
one.
Yeah. So I'll just highlight this.
And then this
break-
hitchhiker was perfect because it coincided with the daily level as well.
Yep, I remember.
Pre-market
this one.
high, opening drive 1, the hitchhiker spot number 2.
Perfect.
This is the 2. Try see.
Maybe a VWAP continuation, big dog consolidation as well. Maybe.
We'll do, and I'll post this video to our room.
Sweet.
Awesome. Cool. I'm getting off here, guys. Have a good one.
You guys have
Awesome.
a good day. I'm out of here.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, me too. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Cheers, bye.